as I do.
It is time.
Good morning and welcome to the start of Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward Reread. My name is Official Pun Guy, and as you might be able to tell, I've gotten a voice actor change for the new season. I've been looking forward to this for a while now, and I hope you're all as excited as I am. Apologies again for the long wait, but I needed some time to collect myself. Plus, Dawn Trail came out, you know? Anyway, No, wait, hold on, I'm kidding, it was just a joke, Oh god, no! Not the bees! Anything but the bees! No, please stop! I'll do anything!
Man, who was that guy? That was fucking weird. Anyway, well, whoever he did my fucking intro for me, so... hey guys, it's me. You guys remember me? I was that guy who did that thing. May have heard of me. Hey, don't you fucking do that. Yeah, let's just log in before the stupid thing plays again. Do you guys like that one? Do you have any idea how long I've been fucking sitting on that joke, by the way? It's been a very long time. I thought of that joke, like... I don't know... before... like, around the time that A Realm Reborn ended, I think I thought of that joke. We kill God today. We'll see if it's on the docket, but it's gonna be a little tight schedule, buddy. Alright. So, I know I whoever that guy was did that at the start a little bit there, but allow me to once again formally welcome everybody to Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward Reread. I tried to think of a snappier title. I couldn't do it. Sorry. I'll try my best later, maybe. But this has been a long time coming. I have been waiting a very long time to do this. I took a long extended hiatus from doing it to focus on doing other stuff, and also to do Dawn Trail. Yes, and as you can see, Ruja has gotten a little bit of an updated glam. She's got to be warm, all right? She's the jungles where she comes from are nowhere near as cold as it gets up in Corthus, so it's important that everything looks good. Let's turn on my little thing here. There we go. It's been a while since we've seen this little thingy, hasn't it? Yes, it has. Now, before we get too far into everything today, I would like to preface the stream by throwing out a couple of things that are important to say. First of all, this stream today, there's a specific point where we're going to have to call it in the story. And the reason for that is, before Heavensward started, before A Realm Reborn even finished, I posed to you all a question, and that question is... Heaven's Red was also the best I could come up with, but, you know. So, I posed to you all a question, and that question is, when we get the chance to unlock them, the 3 new jobs that we have access to upon entering Ishgard start at level 30. And they have a quest line that extends from level 30 to level 50. That sets up the quest line that immediately follows that goes from level 50 to level 60. So I asked you, would you prefer that we do those level 30 to 50 quest lines before we get too far into Heavensward, or wait to do them with the rest of the leveling that we're going to be doing towards the end of the expansion? And it sounded like most people said they wanted to see it early on. So, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be going up until we actually get access or the quests available to send us to the first 2 new zones of Heavensward, and we're going to kind of stop there. If we have time, I'm going to try and at least 1, maybe 2 of the jobs, just so I can kind of level them off stream, because I don't really want to do that on stream, because leveling from like, 1 to 30 is one thing, but leveling from 30 to 50 is another thing entirely. That being said, literally everything else other than Crafters and Gatherers is already at level 60, so this leveling is just done. I finished this already. You're welcome. The other thing I need to say is, if you know me, you know that I have a lot of very intense biases when it comes to Heavensward. I have a lot of very strong feelings about how the story plays out, how everything kind of flows and feels, and how everything that follows it and everything that follows it and how it affects those things. Due to the nature of this rereading, I am essentially going to do my best to remain as unbiased as possible. And when I say that, I mean I'm going to refrain from pointing at every little thing and saying, isn't this shit? Doesn't this suck? I'm not going to do that. When it becomes reasonable, I will point out things here and there that are like, hey, this kind of sucks, right? Like, this could have been done better. In a similar manner to how I did it in what the fuck was the name of the other show? In A Realm Reread, that's the one. But yeah, that, just wanted to get that out of the way and to let you know that, again, that's just, I just want you to know that. The next thing we need to take care of is, in between A Realm Reread and now, there have been a couple of important things to happen. First of all, there's been a visual update to the game. I don't know if you can actually tell if Ruja looks better or not, but she does look better, I think. She always looks good, thanks to you guys. But another thing that happened is my loyal minions, question mark, have given me a shitload of things. Once again, thank you to Chezik and Bees for foisting all of this shit on me. Yeah, I don't know, man. But also, I've got a couple of other things here, some campaign mounts to go through. So, once again, before we get into Heavensward proper, we are just going to bang all of these quick things out, because just to get them out of the way, you know. Another thing you might notice is there is, in fact, a summer event happening right now, and it's kind of out of theme with what we're doing right now with the cold and all that, but I will, the next A Realm Reread stream that I do, the very next one, I was hoping to do one tomorrow, might not happen, but the very next one that I do, we're going to run quick through that event, and then we're going to do the rest of the unlocking of classes. Once again, just so I can have those, and just so I can level them off stream to make that process a little bit faster. However, what you're saying is bikini time. Yeah, basically. If I had, like, I don't know if there's like a one-piece swimsuit in 14, because it's always a top and a bottom, you know? It's hard to do that with a one-piece. But regardless. Yayo. Alright, let's do some reading. Wind Up Fafnir. Protective eyewear is highly recommended. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. There he is. Why the scholar crafted this mechanical marvel, felt that an already deadly dragon need carry a sword, and a legendary one at that, remains unclear. When questioned, he simply refused to alter the design and began muttering about drop rates. Closest match is Mog Store only. Yeah, I think you're probably right. Those hard scales, those claws, that puny body. Are you some kind of lesser dragon, Kupo? Says Mogzin, a character we haven't met. Wind Up Taru. Remarks relating to a certain people's stature and the diminutiveness thereof are best kept to oneself. A stack of dusty tomes and a healthy imagination served as inspiration for this automaton designed to depict the Taru, supposed ancestor of the Lalafell. She wears a gaudy vermilion cloak rendered in painstaking and pointless detail by her Charlian creator. Ages ago, there lived a female mage of no small repute who was known by all sorts of unsavory epithets, says Geralt. Geralt is referring to Shen Toto, one of the most famous black mages of all time. And also a reference to a character of a similar name from Final Fantasy XI, who happens to be a Taru. Bombfish. He will give you an offer that can't be diffused. Given its name after a fisher claimed to witness the wave can explode after tossing it on a grill, the bombfish is, in fact, neither related to bombs of void scent origin or even that combustible. Won't get nowhere with its crack, yuns won't. Not with that piddly bomb. Good old 13 Order alchemist Ghazi, the most Philadelphian of all kobolds. Wind-up Chimera. Crafted by piecing together the remnants of unsold automata. Hard to imagine anyone taking pleasure in creating to-scale replicas of the very abominations that contributed to the end of an entire civilization. Then again, it is so utterly adorable. That chimera must be his latest prize, says Hildebrand. Bomb Boko, an adorable raccoon dog pup with a big heart and even bigger testicles. Not shown. What a weird thing to say. Supposedly, Far Eastern raccoon dogs are nothing like the raccoons of Eorzea, shunning a life of rifling through garbage for one of transmogrification into everyday kitchenware such as tea crocks. Go figure. Now, there's a trick what took some bollocks. Yeah, keep talking about the nuts, guys. That's great. I love it when you do that. The Prince of Animos. Cute and cudgely. Much to the chagrin of his father, the Lord of Animos, the young hare has yet to outgrow the odd habit of congealing cudgels and using them to bludgeon anyone who dares question his merits. Thankfully, an absence of thew leaves in his lively blows lacking. By the 12, that's what a hideous, monstrous abomination, says the impresario. Wind-up Zidane. Despite appearances, he isn't one for monkeying around. The joke is that he has a monkey tail, like Monkey D. Luffy, who doesn't have a monkey tail. Once upon a time, there lived a debonair youth who belonged to a band of thieves masquerading as a theater troupe. Legend holds that he and his fellows set out to kidnap a royal princess, an act that led him to embark upon a quest to ensure the very survival of the star. You don't need a reason, says Zidane. Wind up Garnet. She's not alone. She's following you. Once upon a time, there lived a princess who hailed from a long line of summoners. Legend holds that she was abducted by a band of thieves, whereupon she set upon a journey under an assumed identity. Possessed of an angelic voice, she often hummed beautiful songs that touched the heart. Please come back, says Garnet. Bluebird, known to retroactively bring good fortune to those who have already experienced good fortune. Look more like a dagger to you? Yeah, easy mistake to make. Fortunate to hatch before eating by lizards. Unfortunate to fall from its nest before learning to fly. Fortunate to land in an empty treasure coffer. Unfortunate to still be in said coffer as it filled with booty and locked up again. Fortunate to be plundered. By you. The disbelieving cries of our foe will be as the sweetest bird song, says Yadav Ga. Salt and pepper seal. What a seal! What a mighty good seal. None can say how this seal pup came to be at Loch Seld, but the person who first saw it took to calling it salt for the briny water, and someone else came along and added pepper, because why not? The rest, as they say, is history. Love makes for the best seasoning, says Gildan. Weatherproof Galicat makes you feel toasty warm to simply behold it. It is theorized that the Galicat's garb is no garb at all, but an extension of its corporeal form. That this specimen appears to be wearing a winter coat is the result of its adaptation to Corythan climes, while its ample girth came about via a more mundane process. Overeating. There is no creature so heavenly as the cat. True! Dwarf Rabbit. He may have a penchant for nibbling at your neighbor's garden patches. We're up to 4 pages of minions. After his father was baked into a pie by a farmer's wife for stealing their vegetables, what the fuck? He invoked the time-honored code of rabbit revenge and hopped off to destroy every garden patch he could find. But know that she who chases 2 rabbits catches neither one. Is that a microaggression? Plush cushion, ever ready to shield your buttocks from the hardest of places. Plush cushion. Preferring to take a more hands-on approach with his latest project, Redolent Rose of the Weavers Guild personally researched the resilience and contour of over 80 buttocks in order to create a cushion ever so light and fluffy, even the clouds would darken with envy. Hunting Hawk. She loves you more than life itself. She's had to. After losing its master, this raptor expertly trained in the art of falconry and wandered the skies in search of purpose. finally arriving in the Diadem, where she has since awaited the arrival of one worthy to lead her once more into the field to pursue new quarry. Our companions glided proudly through the skies, will be as they always have and always will be. Castaway Chocobo Chick, currently without a name. Wilson recommended. You won't hear this from his beak, but the Chocobo Chick you rescued from the sea's slippery grasp cannot actually swim. The only thing keeping the bird afloat is a life preserver some kind sailor tossed him from his ship before sailing off into the sunset. What a dickhead. Take the fucking bird with you. You can lead a Chocobo to water. Otter, otter. Is there anything odder than an otter who lives out of water? Otters of the Far East are highly cunning creatures, some scholars having ventured as far to claim the rodent's intelligence is in fact comparable to that of a keycurn, despite lacking the latter's propensity for spoken communication. He seems odd. Well, odder than usual, says Kokobezi. I don't remember if that was the one voiced by Strongbad, but I'm not in the mood for doing that voice right now. We have a lot to talk about, or a lot to talk, so my voice is going to get real worn out. Tiny Tatsunoko. If the Hingan word for seahorse is Tatsunoko, would that make this a sea pony? Your little sea pony? It was Kokobuki? Yes, I believe you are right. A single ilm to the right or left, and this cute creature would have been Kebab. Fate, however, intervened, and now this wavekin follows its would-be transfixer, the tiny tyke having taken quite well to the upper world's drier climes. His tiny minions won't stand a chance. Road Sparrow. This sparrow's home is on the road. Sparrow. Tired of his humdrum life back in Yangsha, this former house sparrow set off on a journey of a lifetime, finally arriving several moons later in Bardam's Metal, where he fell in with a flock of ferocious yole and learned the true meaning of freedom. He will need wine and sparrow-stuffed pheasant. Don't talk about that around him. Guido. There is most likely a logical explanation to why this aged turtle can navigate the skies. Most likely. Some say this denizen of the Siren Song Sea has seen upwards of 700 summers, and in that time his hate for blue blazoned armor has only grown. As for why, nobody knows. Matron's teats, those turtles are huge. Wind-up weapon. Somewhat buggy. Scaled-down replicas of armored weapons have long been mass-produced by the Garlean Imperial Army in an effort to train new recruits on the proper methods of Magitech deployment and repair. Be on your guard, he's known to be armed. Wind-up Mithra. Opinions on how Mikote rate compared to their supposed ancestors are best kept to oneself. Despicable Me. I mean you. Matron's teats? Yeah, that's a swear people use, like Thal's balls. Stack of dusty tomes and healthy imagination served as inspiration for this automaton to depict the Mithra, supposed ancestor of the Mikote. She wears a traditional scorpion harness rendered in painstaking and pointless detail by her Charlian creator. It is a very good swear. Looking to make a new friend, are we? Non-amigo. Axoloch Eft. I almost forgot how to pronounce it, but I didn't. Because there is nothing truly more adorable than an oddly Lalafellan face on the body of a moist, frilled salamander. The retainer who reeled in this specimen claims it is a fabled 100-eyed Axoloch, but at a glance it is short at least 98. Nor would the man say where he found the creature. For now, it shall be called an Axoloch Eft, until such time as naturalists decide what it actually is. The plot thickens like a dollop of salamander oil, says Godbert. And now, on to the mounts. We're almost done, I swear to God. The Chakor Poker whistle. The whistle emits a slightly saccharine tone that is said to summon a creature that defies description, other than the fact that it is mostly comprised of chocolate. This bizarre creature is the result of an enormous corpuscle coming in contact with vast amounts of chocolate, since taken to journeying far and wide to deliver sweet treats to anyone who does not immediately flee at the sight of it. This ambrosial aroma, this couldn't possibly be chocolate? Maybe, who knows? Let's see. Arc identification key. A thin rectangular piece of what appears to be cermet. Placing it near the arc will magically bring the advanced transforming machine to life. 2 pages of mounts. Arc. Seeking to develop an advanced transforming airship, the engineers of Garland Ironworks turn to the expertise of a former Illuminati scientist. The result is a machina that can convert between bipedal and assault craft forms in the blink of an eye. It would seem that there is more to you than meets the eye. Mountain Zoo Horn, a curved horn that, when blown, emits a refreshing note that summons forth your Mountain Zoo. Once again, thanks to Hunter for drinking all that Mountain Dew for me. This subspecies of the monstrous zoo is known to inhabit the mountainous region of the Near East. Seeking to tame the ill-tempered bird, Hannish alchemists fed it a specifically concocted brew, which had the desired effect while causing the creature to give off a refreshing citrus aroma. I can't remember the last time I felt so refreshed, says Tataru. And that's it. That's all of them. We're finally fucking done. Let's go into the fucking intercessory and talk to our friends who most certainly will sound exactly the same. Coming to Ishgard, the time for action has come, and Alphinaud knows what he must do.
The dawn's light will shine again.
Wait a minute, you don't sound the same. What the fuck happened?
So long as we have these specious accusations hanging over us, we will struggle to achieve anything. You must go to Ishgard, as Tataru proposed. I will return to Uldar and set things right.
Pray, do not be so hasty, Master Alphinaud.
Lord Orchefon.
Full well do I understand your desire to clear your names.
Emily, ban that guy. Ban that guy real quick. Don't do that, actually. That's a joke.
But now is not the time for drastic action. You yet have allies upon whom you can rely. There is no need to act alone.
Thank you for being so trigger happy, but there's really no need.
Yes, of course. Pray forgive my impatience.
I bring tidings. Count Edmont has decreed that the three of you be taken in as wards of House Fortin. Under our patronage, you shall be granted access to the city proper. Pray, consider our manor your new headquarters, from which you may gather information and plan how best to proceed. Needless to say, should any of your missing allies be found, as I am certain they shall, they will of course be welcome to join you there.
You are more than generous, my friend. On behalf of my fellows, I humbly accept your offer of hospitality.
The Count is a good man and just. He will treat you with the kindness and respect that a hero and dear friend deserves.
I just noticed that the
together.
Just noticed that the fucking stupid. Oh, you brought me bacon? Thanks, bro. That's so epic of you. I just noticed that the fucking ambience video that I had playing to do snowfall sound effects has still been playing this entire time. I just muted it, so I didn't. Well, that's cool. Anyway.
There we shall carry on the Scion's legacy. There we shall begin anew.
Here, here!
And as you can hear, as we enter a new expansion, we also get new quest accept noises. They say that winds can be rather fierce on the steps of faith. Be sure to wrap up before we go. I did. Already good. Not all circumstances under which I hope to visit Ishgard for the first time, but so be it. I know that Alphinaud's voice isn't nearly as bratty, but I have to keep up that voice for him. It's just how it is. I must go on ahead to speak with the court. Fear not, however, for everything has been arranged. The sentries at the gates of judgment have been informed of our decision. You need but state your names, and they shall allow you to pass. And my manservant will be waiting for you at the city gates, ready to escort you to our manor, where we shall meet again. Until then, bye-bye. The same lines, yes. Okay, well, out we go. Oh boy, it's finally time. Let's get on Baccarat, shall we? He's also dressed up for the winter, although he's been dressed up for the winter for longer. My friends! Hello! Hi guys, how are you doing? Let's get inside. Wards of House Fortin. Ah, yes, you may pass.
And so they came, at a friend's behest. Heroes once celebrated as saviors of Eorzea, brought low through treachery, their names blackened with royal blood. With memories of the lost and dreams of redemption, with hope yet in their hearts, they came.
We made it! Oh, geez, this place looks like shit.
To Ishgard, shining city on the mount, overlooking the dominion of Kurthus. A great and proud nation, devoted to Helone, the Fury, ruled by Thordan VII, Archbishop of the Ishgardian Orthodox Church. The last bastion of the faith, her walls ever bristling with the sworn swords and spears of her 4 high houses.
Everything looks like it's going great.
1,000 years of war had forgotten what it was to be at peace.
Apple.
Through gates long closed, the warrior of light and her companions passed, entering at last a city whose history was written in blood. In the midst of the Dragonsong War they came, 3 weary travelers whose
Don't you
arrival
fucking look at me
set
like
in
that,
motion
kid.
great change. Though none knew then how great.
I do. I've played this expansion before. Shh, don't worry about that. I'll talk. It's fine. Alright. Here we are. God, this place looks like shit. Hang on, we gotta go back. There's people over here. What were you thinking coming back out here before your wounds healed? Yeah, that guy's not doing well. Hello. Something I can do for you, madam? What do you do here? My fellow Temple Knights and I have been charged with defending the Ark of the Worthy. Before, one would not have expected to encounter Dravanians here. Perhaps that is why so many of our order fell. Rest assured, we will not be caught unawares again. Measures have been taken by both us and the goons. What kind of place is this? You stand before the Ark of the Worthy, the sole entrance to and exit from the Holy See of Ishgard, except for the other ones, but don't worry about that. Consequently, it is one of the most heavily fortified sections of our city. Well, I suppose land entrances is the only one, but regardless. Just beyond these steps is Foundation. If you seek lodgings, Cloud9 within the Forgotten Night can accommodate you. You'll find it not far from the Congregation. Take care when wandering the city. Your status only affords you so much protection. You guys doing alright over here? No, they kind of look like they're suffering real bad. Well, I'm sure that's fine. How are you guys doing over here? Bad? Alright, yeah, no, this place looks like it sucks. Andrew Cuomo Renton. Could use that pickaxe over here, Midlander. It's slow going, you might expect. We didn't think to prepare for the worst, so here we are, picking up the pieces. From afar, the spires did not seem so tall. Gods, I feel like a child in a giant's castle. I mean, that's how most places are for you, I feel. Greetings, Mrs. Lorelei. On behalf of Houseful Toms, I bid you welcome to Ishgard. My lord humbly requests your presence at his residence in the Pillars. If you'd all come with me. Alright. In we go. Alright. That guy's staring up at the sky with a spyglass, I guess. That's cool. Let's set ourselves a set our home point here, why don't we? An adventurer, eh? Well, call yourself whatever you please. When the dragons are finished with you, we'll call you something else. Go fuck yourself, dickhead. That's gonna be a sentence you're gonna hear a lot out of me in this expansion. Everybody in this place hates you, and the feeling is mutual. Gauselmard. Lost St. Valeran's Forum is just up these steps, so named for the former Azure Dragoon, in case you were unaware. Yeah, like me, I'm the Azure Dragoon. Let's just walk around in a tune. It's been so long since we've actually had to walk around a new city. Like, we're talking like episode like 3 or 4 of this series, of last season, that is. It's been a long ass time. These steps will take you to the Pillars, where you will find the manors of the High Houses, Saint Ranimald's Cathedral, the Athenaeum Astrologicum, the Tribunal, and much more. Very cool. Let's look around here. Even the mutton down the broom will cost you. Might be a tie. Are you suggesting you use ill-gotten coin to purchase the services of a local courtesan? Pa, I say. Bring back the other text bubble, please. I haven't finished reading it. Come on. Bring it back. Have your conversation again, dickhead. Come on, dude. Come on. Do it! Oh, maybe if I walk further away. There we go. Might be a toss of the bones line your purse. Okay, that text bubble just disappears real quick. You've business in the Proving Grounds, very well. Sure, what's in here? I don't fucking know. Oh, hi there. Oh, hello there. Welcome to Lightfeather Proving Grounds. Officially, I'm supposed to show people around and answer their questions, but in practice that's hardly necessary, as we rarely see new faces around here. Not that I mind. I rather like being free to watch the fights. What kind of place is this? As you might expect from the name, the Lightfeather Proving Grounds were originally established to host matches for battle-trained chocobos. That being said, House Dismail has since allowed the grounds to be used for other purposes on occasion. Some other houses have staged spectacles for both private and public amusement. The Temple Knights have also had exhibitions in the past as well. Those are always a delight, believe you me. Interesting. One moment, please. Sorry about that. It's so cold here in Ishgard that I needed to get myself some hot chocolate. How much longer must we wait? You fetch me a drink. Fuck you. Hurl. I say, such fine sand we've got here, wouldn't you agree? Pity I've got no luck with chocobos, or other pursuits for that matter. Ugh. I'm reminded how much the female variant of the Dragoon armor, because her most vulnerable area, the midriff, is exposed on it where it isn't on the male armor. Yeah, I think about that a lot too, because I'm slightly biased, because on the one hand, I absolutely agree that female armor that isn't as practical as male armor is something that always irks me. If you're going to, do something like that, you should, it should be consistent, you know? Like, the guys should also have something like that. And yeah, combat heals, exactly. That kind of thing. But on the other hand, anyway, a little visual joke for you there. I did this one, right? Yes. Oh, let's talk to Firmalbert. Hey, buddy. You stand before the congregation of our knights most heavenly, or the Cockham, the headquarters of we knights who have sworn to serve the Holy See. Cool. I'm gonna go in. Pray keep your voice down when... Sorry. Used to serve as a guardsman over by the Scholasticate. Force of habit. Carry on. Slutty armor for men. Exactly. And here we have Handloop. Sir Emmerich has told me much and more about you. Suffice it to say, my expectations are high. Vane Canet. Reports of Dravanian assaults hammer us down without cease. I fear keeping record of the destruction will soon be an impossible task. That's cool. Have fun with that. You should be wearing a hard hat while you're doing that. Not OSHA compliant. Oh yeah, I should get my little guy out. Have her with me. Tessalingion. They told me I was too old to take up arms against the Horde, that I couldn't possibly make a difference. It wasn't until the Wyverns came that I realized that they were right. That's just, I think, another exit for the elevator. Ow. Wheelchair accessible. Surprisingly progressive for the Ishgardians, I must admit. Thinking of trying your hand at a little dragon slaying, are you? Well, be my guest, so long as you know what you're up against. Those scaly bastards are smarter than you think, and crafty with it. We'll go in there later, but I think I want to swing down here real quick. Because I don't remember if the quest takes us down here. And plus, there's another Ethernet shard to pick up. Cool. How are you guys doing over here? Bad? You'll see me a knight before you see me swing a sledge. Very nice. Guy begging. Kids playing with snowballs. Hey! Good try, bitch. Whew. I trained the mountains in Nepal. You'll never hit me. Love to take a stroll through the broom and remind yourself how good you've got it. Oh, I swear, you people. Alright. Do I look like a fucking Ishgardian noble to you? Oh, hey, kid. I can't feel the pain in my arm anymore. Can't feel much anything. That's good, right? No, that's bad, kid. It means you're dying. That's bad, generally. Barthoview. I'm just a poor soldier from a poor family. What business does an adventurer have with me? Nothing right now, sir. Geraldio, there we go. Outlanders are often surprised to learn of our ministrations to the poor. They find it at odds to be with the more militant activities of the faith. To them I would say, judge not the teachings of Helone by the actions of those who would claim to know her will. That's what the Catholic Church says, is they say, feed the poor, and then don't do that. Just leave me, sister. Then we got Thommelin over here. 1,000 pardons, but the area beyond is currently off limits. Unfortunate. Alright. We'll swing by the Skysteel Manufactory, I think, and then we'll actually head up to the fucking pillars. Oh, wait, I forgot I haven't actually unlocked that one yet. I will say, for all of my dislike of Ishgard, I will say this town is really cool. I do love Gothic castles. If you want coin, you might consider undertaking a leve or two. Some are rather more challenging than others, but the rewards are well worth the hassle. If you've come for work, speak with Sir Elon Musk. The Temple Knights will not waste time entertaining untested whelps, no matter how willing they may be. You'll have to apply on X.com. Fionula. That's actually a name I recognize, in a way. You there, good madam. Surely you should be glad to serve a good cause, and receive due compensation as well. No, I hate good causes. Die. Hi, who are you? Okay. Both of these nuts? I just want to go home to Falcon's Nest, but now I fear what I'll return to. Welcome back. That guy who did my intro for me is back in my house. Undamaged by the bees.
Help me!
He's fine.
He's lying!
No, he's fine. Don't listen to him.
I'll never escape.
It's true. Although this month it is my turn to pay rent, so... I did? Nope. Okay, I did pick that one up. Cool. Jerivian. Just a little more, that's all we're asking for. Children won't survive without food and blankets. It's true, children are notoriously very good at dying. Don't look down! Oh god! Hope somebody helps that guy. We're not going to go into the manufactory yet, because that is something we are going to do later. Actually, hang on. Let me move this real quick.
Did I just turn it back on?
Yes. cliffhanger. Good reference. Yeah, there's a throwback. Alright, wow, they've even got chocobo keeps here. I guess they are kind of civilized. Lift with the legs, she said. Bah! Hello. Welcome to the Holy Stables. I guarantee you'll find no finer stock of battle chocobos. Or if your gaze is fixed skyward, we also specialize in black chocobos trained for flight. What's so holy about these stables, you ask? Well, it was established by the sea to train mounts for the temple knights, for one. But if you ask me, it's because our birds are so brave and strong. Why, they'd be fit for the Fury herself to ride. It's colder than a dragon's stare out there. Yeah, nothing else in here, I don't think. Back out we go. Iant. I know we've fallen on hard times, but do you ever see a war ended by crying and complaining? Didn't think so. The moment we lose the resolve to keep going, it's all over. Alright, let's head up these stairs here, I suppose. Fuck standardized tests. All my homies hate standardized tests. And now, as you can see, the quality of everything gets significantly better. I wonder why that is. You need more than an endorsement to enter the seminary, you know? Above, you'll find St. Rainmald's Cathedral and the Holy Vault. Pray observe proper decorum should you wish to proceed. No, I hate proper decorum. We're gonna come back this way in a bit, so don't worry about it. I'm gonna go up here first. Hi. No? Okay. Oh yeah, there's Cowboy Thancred and Cryle Baldessian, a character we haven't met yet. Bartletot. Excuse me, miss, but I'm under strict orders not to permit anybody into Halionot Manor. I'll have to ask you to leave. But what if I... Okay. It was worth a shot, you know? Your skin is like the snow, your eyes like sapphire. You're so white! A compliment that any woman would love to hear, I assume. Hang on, I'll get to you guys in a second. Hi. Oh! Pray me no mind, miss. I am merely taking my morning constitutional. I am certainly not hoping to catch the eye of Lord Artoirel. Oh no, heavens no, forfend, if a married woman of my station were to become involved with the young lord, why, think of the scandal. The Catholics yearn for cheating and unfaithfulness. They want it. They need it. To most, gazing at the skies fills the heart with pride. Alas, it has long ceased to have that effect for me. In the silhouette of every bird, I see a dragon come to raise our city. Well, yes, Emily, that's because you're a ghost. Greetings, miss, and welcome to Fortemps Manor. Is it just me, or is the air up here different? You can almost smell the wealth and power. Gods, it's making me feel faint. Aren't you guys cold with your tits out? Put those fucking things away. Cover them up. To look upon the splendor of these heights, one would little suspect the ruin wrought by the wyverns below. The warrior of light and her brave companions walking the streets of Ishgard at last. What a glorious sight. Cannot tell you how long I have waited for this day. Allow me to present you my family home, Fortemps Manor. Should like nothing more than to show you around, but everyone is gathered to receive you. Come, my friends, introductions must be made.
My lord, I have returned with the Scions.
I hope your journey was not too taxing.
That bridge was really long.
I, Count Edmond de Fortemps, do bid you well. As wards of House Fortemps, you shall be afforded every courtesy. My home is your home.
But you can't log out and sleep here. We can't have... We don't want you on the good furniture. You might shed.
My companions and I are deeply honored, Count Fortemps.
The honor is mine, Master Alphino. Consider it an expression of our gratitude for your service to Ishgard.
Forgive me, my lord, but are you not concerned? To accept foreign guests at such a juncture, especially ones with our reputation.
Do not worry yourself on my account. 'Tis true that Ishgard's first thought has ever been the war effort, hence the closing of our borders. Yet it is in troubled times most of all that men should seek allies. Don't you think?
Yeah, sure.
Granted, my decision will have raised eyebrows in the vault and in the halls of the other high houses.
But fuck those guys.
But so long as you continue with your altruistic endeavors, I doubt my honored peers will feel moved to voice their concerns.
Then there is naught to fear. Though our numbers are much reduced, we are no less determined to carry on our work.
Full glad am I to hear it. But before you return to your labors, why not take a tour of the city? You would do well, I think, to acquaint yourselves with your new surroundings. After all, you may be here for some time.
Okay. Let's explore. But we have so many people to talk to first. Tatteru? So this is what the inside of the manor of a high house looks like. To think that Lord Haurchefant was raised here. Where did your coats go, by the way? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Maybe the manservant took them and put them in a closet or something. So, what do you think? Be honest. It's great, isn't it? Yeah, it's not bad. Feels like there's a lot of negative space that you could use for like a table or some shelves or something. I don't know. Hello, sir. Greetings, Mrs. Lorelei. How might I be of... actually, this is not that guy. What do you do here? Me? Why, I am but a humble steward, sworn to House Fortemps. I doubt you wish to hear the minutiae of my duties. Simply put, at the behest of the lord of my court, I manage household affairs. I have served at his pleasure for more than 50 years, and by the Fury's grace, I shall serve for 50 more. Tell me about House Fortemps. The origins of House Fortemps can be traced back to King Thordan and his Knights 12. Ours was one of the 4 founding houses of Ishgard. Accordingly, our interests extend far beyond the walls of the city proper. Camp Dragonhead, for instance, is our responsibility. As for the family, you have, of course, met my lord Count Edmond du Fortemps, who is the head of house. His 2 sons, my lords Artoirel and Emanelaine, are next in line. May the Fury watch over and keep them from harm. As for those sworn to House Fortemps, in addition to the knights, squires, and infantry, more than 100 craftsmen, retainers, and other servants possessed of notable skills are pledged to our service. Given our strong position, one might expect us to have no truck with foreign merchants and sellswords. However, nothing could be further from the truth. I should think that my lord, the Count, was quite clear on this point, but it was our hope that you and your allies would, by your deeds, help us convince the other high houses of the wisdom in opening the gates of judgment to all, among other things. More than anything else, I suspect he saw in you potential. Tell me about this hellhole. More than 1,000 years ago, Halone appeared before King Thordan I and bade him lead his people to the Promised Lands, to the lands we now call home. And so the king and his Knights 12 did as was commanded. They came to Korthus to found a great kingdom in the Fury's name. But the great worm Nidhogg would not have it so. With hatred in his heart, Nidhogg sought out King Thordan. In the ensuing battle, the king and half his knights were slain, but his son Haldrith rallied the others and drove back the fell beast. Thus did the war between our peoples begin, the war between dragon, and man. For 1,000 years, Ishgard has stood against the Horde, and not once were our defenses breached, until the day Lady Iceheart's allies shattered our wards on the steps of faith. Though the Wyverns were slain before they could breach our defenses here, those in Foundation were not so fortunate. Unarmed men, women, and even children were made to feel the Dravanians' wrath. Walls can be rebuilt, but lives lost can never be reclaimed. My lord the Count knows this all too well.
It's an honor to have you with us, Mrs. Lorelei.
I say, they've been whispering good things about you soon, if they haven't already. The mysterious guests of House Fortops, or some such. Greetings, Scion, and welcome. We are honored by your presence. As I said before, my home is your home. After all you have done on our behalf, it is the least I can offer. Alright, fine. Taking in the sights. Alphanode has a mind to learn more about Ishgard. Though our friends in House Fortomp have been generous enough to extend us their protection, we must take care not to impose too much on their hospitality. It is only proper we learn about our new home so that we might become more self-sufficient. It'll take a while to learn the lay of the land, but learn it we must. Then there's the markets and taverns. We'll need to know where to shop and where to hear small talk. 'Twould seem a tour of the city is indeed in order. I thank you for your counsel, my lord. My companions and I shall, of course, do as you suggest. Very good. Then my manservant shall accompany you. He will be able to answer any questions you might have. Ah, but I grow forgetful in my dotage. There is something else I must give you ere we part. Their documentation is in order, I trust?
Yes, my lord.
How is it sticking to my hand like that? Those documents identify you as wards of House Forton. Given that our borders have remained closed for decades, many of my countrymen are unaccustomed to treating with foreigners. Fun fact, that piece of parchment floats for Hrothgar like the Reign the Hildebrand quest. It's almost as like they were not designed to be player characters. Should anyone happen to question your presence here, it may prove necessary to remind them that you remain under the protection of House Fortomp. But let us hope it shall not come to that. Rest assured, we shall do our utmost to avoid any situation which might compel us to invoke your name. Good shit. Ruja, Tataru, the city awaits. Let's go! Bye-bye. Let's hit the bricks. All right. I'm glad I have a map. I confess, it has long been a dream of mine to visit Ishgard. To my childish self. You mean, right now? Her towers, bridges, and cobbled streets seem akin to something from a fairy tale, and I have never quite outgrown the fantasy.
As this is your first time in our fair city, pray permit me to show you to the Hopalon, from whence we may gaze upon the splendor of the Holy Vault. For all your sights pale in comparison, 'tis only the meat that you see first. Then I shall show you around the jeweled quarter, where you may purchase all manner of goods and services, before descending to the Foundation's Aetherite Plaza. If there are no questions, let's go.
Alrighty then, let's do it. Nope. No, we read that one already. Tall-ass tower. A lot of statues. Let's look at these. So we got a couple guys with spears, a couple guys with swords. Okay, never mind. I thought maybe there would be more differences with the statues, but no. Ishgardians are boring and uninteresting, even in statue design. The Holy Vault, where Archbishop Thordan VII rules from on high. They're awfully fond of statues, aren't they? Hey, what if I took up sculpting? I bet you I could make a fortune in a place like this. And we need every gil we can get. Dalen Ashbourne is now accompanying you. Insert the rest of NPC accompaniment spiel. Dalen Ashbourne is now available to be your companion.
The Hoplon, so named for the bronze great shield borne by our nation's patron deity, is the largest plaza in Ishgard. The magnificent cathedral to the north is, of course, the Holy Vault. The vault is both Ishgard's seat of government and the residence of the Archbishop of the Ishgardian Orthodox Church.
Begging your pardon, the statues to the south, are they perchance Thordan's famed Knights 12?
A very good, Master Elflord. They are the fathers of Ishgard, the brave knights who joined with King Thordan of I to put down Nidhogg and found this great nation. Ours is a city rich in history and tradition, and there is much you can learn from exploring the pillars. The time permitting, of course.
I hope you guys can actually understand me when I'm doing that voice. I can barely understand me.
Now, if you could follow me to June Quasi, I shall introduce you to Mistress Alias, the master of our markets.
Ruja is also an all-rounder, but if you pick her for tank, she will tank things, but all she'll do is run into the middle of enemies, cower, put a shield on herself, cower, and not actually attack them. They'll still keep attacking her because, like, she annoys them, but she won't actually fight back. She's just too scared. Hey, dude.
None may enter the Holy Vault without permission.
Are you sure?
None may...
Okay. Let's go to the right here first. Also, hi, bees. Ow, my neck. The Supreme Sacred Tribunal of Hellenic Inquisitory Doctrine. Get a shorter fucking name, dickheads. Lurkin, Valinor, we're watching stuffs. No worries. Urbician. Hello. The SSTHID. The shitted is no place for outsiders, unless they are come to stand before the Fury and answer for their deeds. Don't forget, there is an exclamation point lurk command, I think. I think that still works. I never actually mention about it because I always forget that it exists. And most other people do too, I think. Old people. Point and laugh. Some college students, I think. Hello. But a moon in the kitchens, and the maid is already fat with child. That is, I have to say, by the way, one of the most reprehensible sounding phrases I think I've ever heard in my entire life. I hate hearing that.
I have forged weapons and armor for heroes and catered banquets for royalty.
I've concocted potions to heal the dying, woven great banners of nations. And just last week, I won the Ishgardian Fine Woodworking Association Award for Best Chair. What have you built of late? I built a Lego AT-AT. Cost me like $900. Oh, Greetings, madam. I am a locksmith by trade, and should have decided to set up shop here while I heard folks were bringing back lockboxes from the Diadem. I'd be happy to put my skills to work for you, should you happen to need them. Pray pay me no mind, miss. I am but a humble trader charged with purchasing unwanted gear procured by adventurers in the Diadem. I am a soldier in the service of Lord Aurvel de Hallianart. If you seek my master, he is presently in the firmament for a new undertaking. However, I should be pleased to assist you with any lockboxes you may possess, as well as trade you for your sky pirate spoils. Owing to recent developments, these items are not as common as they once were, but should you chance to acquire them, please feel free to come to me. Ooh, an airship, wow. My apologies, madam, but all fights have been suspended until further notice on account of the inclement weather. Great, so they're never going to come back then. Airships are quite the innovation, but I never imagined scheduling flights can be so infuriating. Snowstorms, thundercloud, random Dravanian assaults. I swear, if I have to cancel one more flight. It's bad enough when a merchant's wares fall off the cart. I have no doubt that it's far worse when that cart is an airship. Hang on, I want to see something. Yes, okay. Otaku has set Dalen to just follow me. Wonderful. So I can run in circles and Dalen will do the same thing. We'll go up there later. Potentially at the end of stream today. If only he'd known the sun's true sire. Hi. This is the residence of House Dismail. Unless you have business with my lord, I cannot let you pass. I don't want to fucking go in there anyway. There we go.
Too many young girls are quick to pledge themselves to the first house that will have them. They think one lord is as good as any, only to learn the truth the hard way.
What does that mean? Alright, back up we go to the tribunal, and then we'll down to the cathedral, and then down to the croisier. And then we'll pretty much be done with exploring the city, fascinatingly enough. Other than the places that we have not explored yet. Like the places with the job quests. Up we go. We already swung around the vault, so we're just going down this way. Ethernet shard. Are there any people around here? I really should be using sprint more often. That would be smart. Nope, nobody. Okay. Just making sure. Wilmot. Where is your cassock? You know how they... wait, you aren't a seminarian. You're right, I'm not. I'm a rabbit. You need not speak while in the chapel, for this fury can hear the whispers of your soul. That's weird. She should fuck off. When my grandson became a knight of House Fortomp, I was so proud, but now, every day I come to pray for his safe return. As the shepherd watches over his flock, so do we of St. Rainamod's Cathedral care for those who seek sanctuary in these trying times. May the grace of Hallownay keep you safe on your journey. Amen. Hang on. This kid, you can't tell by her face necessarily, she fucking hates going to church. As all sane people do. Hi. The chamber for the headmistress of St. Endelum Scholastic lies beyond. As she is quite busy these days, those without arrangements for an audience will be asked to leave. Also, I haven't been doing any French accents for any of these people because I'm really bad at them, and it's funnier to save the French accent for one guy. It feels as though we waited here an eternity. I would avoid the Scholasticate if I were you. If you're expecting a community of bright-eyed students eager to follow the righteous path of Helona, you'll be sorely disappointed. In truth, it's more like a pit of vipers, like the new job. It's almost embarrassing to admit I'm a seminarian of the Scholasticate, but at least I have some sense not to study in such a foul place. Pray, keep your voice down while in the Scholasticate. Okay. I didn't realize you could go in here this early. Shh, please keep your voice down. If the matter is not urgent, it would be prudent to save it for another day. The others would not take kindly to anyone disturbing their studies. But do you not find that strange? I should like to think the duty of helping others comes before our studies. I dare say the preoccupation with these books leaves them blind to what it means to take up the cloth. Here we have Abercrombie. Policy states that regardless of station of birth, we are all seen as equals studying here in the Scholasticate. Would that I had the authority to change that. Why? Well, to be frank, the clergy is simply no place for those of low birth. As we all know, praying to God is only about being rich and powerful. Consider, if you will, the responsibilities of the clergy. Teaching of the doctrines of the orthodoxy, serving as leaders, upholding the laws of Ishgard. Would you trust such tasks to the vermin scurrying about in the broom? Yeah, actually, I think that would be really funny. Pray do not disturb the seminarians while they are at their studies. What do you do here? Though I do still teach on occasion, my primary responsibilities are now administrative, as I serve directly under Headmistress Elviane. Her knowledge of the Echindrion is without peer, as it is well that His Eminence appointed her to oversee the Scholasticate. However, owing to her age, she is unable to attend all her duties. Frankly, it's altogether too much work for one man. I could use someone intelligent and capable, perhaps my nephew, if he would stop gallivanting about and come back to the city. You look familiar, buddy. I can't put my finger on it. What kind of place is this? St. Endelum Scholasticate is where God's-fearing men and women come to seek a proper theological education. Oh, please get me out of here right now. We are an equal opportunity institution, I might add. Here you will find the sons and daughters of great houses studying side by side with those of more humble origins. All that is required is a recommendation provided by one of the clergy. Our curriculum encompasses a diverse range of subjects, from the fundamentals of Ishgardian theology to the intricacies of our canon law. We offer more specialized instruction to those who wish to focus on medicinal or magical fields. However, to ensure that seminarians are adequately prepared for these studies, they must first complete the Triumvium and the Quadrivium, rigorous courses comprising of grammar, rhetoric, logic, arithmetic, geometry, astrology, and music. You have to know if you're a Libra or not if you can study in this library. That's why it's called a library, because it has Libra in it. Oh, we also have to talk to this guy. Oh, how rude of me. Welcome to the Scholasticate. Is there aught that you need? Whether a kind ear or a supportive voice, do not hesitate to ask. The others are preoccupied with their studies, but I will do what I can to help. These books can only teach so much of what it means to be a clergyman. It requires selflessness and compassion. The kindness that afforded an orphan like me the chance to pore over these books. Someday I will repay that kindness and pay forward the goodwill of the church to the masses, rather. Alright, there's a little bit of stuff over here. The main entrance to Durandare Manor is below. If you're here on official business, it would behoove you to present yourself there. Is that where the manor is? Yeah, it is. What do you know? No, I already talked to that guy, actually. Wow, what do you know? May Helone bless you as she has blessed me this day, miss. Oh, if you've only seen the wondrous temptations she saw fit to place before me in the jeweled croisier. Thank God I'm so rich. Fram and Sis! This is Durandare Manor, miss. You may not enter without the leave of my lords, but it is respite from the cold you seek. Mayhaps you could visit the cathedral. Hup. Hup. Excellent. Not a single scorched stone in sight. To watch these merchants going about their business, one would think the dragons never attacked. If you want to buy something, let me do the talking. I could haggle for Ul'dah.
I present to you Mistress Elias. Mayhap you would like to say a few words.
Well, you're clearly not locals or traveling peddlers, which makes you all... we're wards of House Forton. Ah, wards of House Forton, how very interesting. Count Edmund has granted us leave to remain in Ishgard for as long as we wish, which may be some time. Accordingly, we'll have need of sundry goods, hence our desire to make your acquaintance. That is, of course, assuming you are content to accept the custom of foreigners. Should you be uncomfortable... Young sir, we do not discriminate in matters of money. If you have coin to spend, who are we to refuse it? Weapons, armor, accoutrement, medicine, materials, whatever you desire, it can be found in the croisier. Our merchants will be more than happy to accommodate you, as you shall soon see.
Our next destination is the Aetheryte Blossom Foundation. As everybody is ready.
A warm welcome to you, miss. Please feel free to visit our many, many shops. You are bound to find something to satisfy your every need. Fremondane. Once I was steward to Ishgard's finest house. Now I work as a shopkeeper's assistant. Such is life, I suppose, and at least I still have the strength to toil. Poor comfort, though that is. I'll take 2 of everything, in gold and silver. Mother asked us to fetch mutton and potatoes. She said nothing of honey cakes. Right, she didn't say we couldn't buy any. Attaway, kid. That's how you do it. Might you have aught for boils, miss? Big ones. Ew. Hi. Cooking? Nice. I am but a humble merchant, my dear miss, but I pride myself on my selection. From folios to the scholasticate to chocobo fodder, I promise you I have it. Welcome, welcome to Eld's House of Excellence. Our signboard is newly hung, but I promise you'll find no finer leatherwork in all of Ishgard. Wonderful weather we're having lately, eh? Yeah, it's great. It's hardly blizzarding at all. Alright, all we have left is the Forgotten Night and the couple of areas we have not gotten to yet. That guy's still hanging up there. I'm sure he'll be fine. I don't want to walk all the way over there. Fuck this. I'm just teleporting. Oh, I have already attuned myself to the Aetheryte. I trust you have as well? Yeah, I did. Do you ever get a funny tingling feeling when you attune to an Aetheryte, or is it just me? No? So it is just me.
And here we have Foundation's Aetheryte Blossom. If you have yet to attune to the Aetheryte, it would be wise to do so now. Give me your money.
the better half. Your guide is eager to continue your tour of Ishgard. Excuse me.
As for our next destination,
Mayhap we should decide together. What else can be found nearby?
the Sky Steel manufactory stands to the west. There our engineers conceive and manufacture weapons for use against the dragons. The holy stables, where chocobos are trained for war, also lie in that direction. To the north and east can be found a congregation of our knights most heavenly, the Cockham, as they call it. And while to the south and east, well, it would be best if you avoided that area.
And why is that?
I fear our knights may not be able to ensure your levels in the lowest levels, Master Alphinaud. I mean, your safety in the lowest... ensure your levels in the lowest safety, Master Alphinaud.
Hold your nose when you pass the broom, little lord. A delicate flower like you is like to wilt in our fumes. Was that guy just waiting? Oh, he's doing the pose! You misjudge me, sir, for I am no lord, but a humble traveller. Oh, come to see the sights, have you? Take a turn down the Hope Lawn and gawp at the statues? Ha! Well, if you've a man to learn how the better half live, come and have a drink at the Forgotten Knight, if your nursemaid'll let you.
My humblest apologies, Master Alphinaud. Pray, pay that drunken lout no mind. I will have him flogged and killed later today.
Oh, but I must. It would not do to refuse such a heartfelt invitation. Yes, I simply must see this Forgotten Knight for myself. I like to imagine the main reason why he agreed to do this is because the guy goaded him into doing it, like, my nursemaid would absolutely let me go to this tavern. And I don't need her permission anyway, so there. I trust you see the wisdom in this, Ruja. There are few sources of information more abundant than a bustling local hostelry. Not that I expect to hear any news of our missing comrades just yet, but nevertheless, who can say what we might learn of recent events? Then I'm coming too. Hooray! Huh! Gotta get out of here. Quick, they can't get you while they're crafting. Okay, gotta get in there. I don't see him. I think we're safe. Okay, they'll never find us in here. Whew. Hey there, man. What do you got for us? Let the clan hunt begin. Atine is looking you up and down and grinning.
Well, 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 what have we here? You look like you've seen a scrap or two. Name's Atine, and I'm a proud member of Clan Centuria, the toughest band of warriors this side of the steppes. You've heard of the hunt, right? Grand companies run it, and there's the rest of Eorzea, but up here it's the clans concerned. We follow the same system, but we free to pick our own marks. We also have a different currency, because this is a new expansion, you see. Reckon you've got the speed, the strength, and the heart to take down some of the most ferocious fiends this side of the Seventh Hell? If you think you're up to the challenge, head downstairs and have a word with our Dolane. He'll fill you in on the details. Hunt isn't for beginners, you know. Underestimate any of these beasties and you'll be going home in a bucket. Still, if you reckon you got what it takes, head downstairs and talk to our Dolane. He'll fill you in on the details. Who that?
Hey me, Rich. Not from Ishgard, are you? I'm from Uldar myself. Just came up to serve the House Forton. Name's Heinrich, lass. Captain of Ocean's Raiders, the finest company of sellswords that ever lived. That's cool.
Find another table. This one is taken.
Must hurt his voice to do that. Beep, 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 beep. It's been so long since I've been back in Ishgard. Still, there's no rest for the wicked. High time I planned my next fishing trip. Fine day to you, miss. How may I assist you? Well, miss, some might say the Cloud9 is an Ishgardian institution. Been here longer than most folk can remember we have. There's some debate as to the meaning of the name. Some say it's cause sleeping on a bed of ours is like being wrapped in linens made of clouds. Others think anyone who believes that rubbish ought to might try spending a night in the broom. Me? I say a bed's a bed. I think ours are better than most, but I'm not about to get into a pissing contest to prove it. Begging your pardons, miss.
Once more, I must urge you to reconsider. There are several gentlemen who appear blessed and pleased by our presence.
What, that guy? Over there? I think he just looks angry normally. Yes, I've got a good feeling about this place. Mayhap one drink wouldn't be... No, I mustn't. Alpha Node, you are, like, 5 years old. You're not allowed to drink. Hi. Got yourself some Centurio seals, have you? Then perhaps I can offer you a few knickknacks in exchange.
Good evening to you, young lady. How can I be of service?
I want to join the hunt.
Oh, so you fancy your hand at the hunt, do you? Well, if Atine reckons you're up to it, then it isn't for an old man like me to say elsewise. Me and him are manners of Clan Centurio, a ragtag band of glory hunters, mercenaries, and has-beens brought together by Sir Lodust, one of Ishgard's most noble of nobles. Whenever a monster grows too big for its boots, we're the ones who risk our necks to take it down. Doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, as long as you can wield a weapon and you don't fear death, you'll always be welcome in the clan. Take me, for instance. I was born 1,000 miles from here, but now I'm the one showing new recruits the ropes. So how about it, young lady? Will you be joining the hunt? If the fame and glory is not enough for you, perhaps the rich rewards on offer might change your mind. Then welcome to the clan. What was your name again? Ruta? All right then, I'll put your name on the book. Now, I suppose you'll be wanting to take a look at some of our marks. Head up the stairs and out the door. Clan hunt board is on the wall outside, round to the left. Better stick to the level 1 marks for the nonce. No point running before you can walk. Clan hunt board's on the wall outside, on the top of the stairs. Since you're new to the clan, I'd ask you to only take level 1 bills for the nonce. Prove you've got what it takes to be a hunter, and I'll think about giving you some more bigger fish to fry. Let's go up and deal with that real quick. We did it. None of that information was important. We can also get more now. Better bill hunting. Eustacia thinks you're ready to hit new heights in your hunting career. See you, Ruja, are you? I can see why that old rogue Atine signed you up. Got the fire of a born hunter burning in your eyes. Wait till those level 1 marks don't offer much of a challenge to a burly girl like you. I'm actually really not all that burly. It's mostly just fat. You'll be wanting to spice things up a little, am I right? What are you waiting for? Head down to Ardolan and tell him you're ready for more. Ardolan's as cherry as a chocobo chick when it comes to new recruits. How's a clan's willing to prove she can stand the heat if you won't let her throw herself into the fire? You get down there and tell him you're ready to feel the burn. Anything else to say? Yeah, I did that one already. Hi, I'm back again. Oh, so Eustacia reckons you're ready to move on to the bigger and better things, does she? If that girl had her way, we'd be throwing babes into the river to sort out the swimmers from the sinkers. Still, she might be onto something this time. All right, I'll give you a chance, but level 2 marks ain't nothing to be sniffed at, understand? Let your guard down even for an instant, and they'll hand you your posterior on a platter. Take a look at the clan hunt board, and you'll see what kind of beasts I'm talking about. Don't go getting yourself killed now. Those level 2 marks are a heck of a lot more dangerous than their level 1 brethren. If you're sure you're up to the challenge, go and have a look at the bills on the clan hunt board. But on your own head be it. Up we go again! Do you have more for us? Okay, no more. Cool. Oop. Okay. Hi, man.
Must say, this is rather unusual. Not just one, but a whole party of fresh new faces in my tavern.
We but arrived recently in Ishgard and are eager to acquaint ourselves with her more notable establishments. Master...
Gilberant. Gilberant'll do. I'm flattered you think so highly of my establishment. Can't promise it'll live up to your expectations, but if it's decent food and drink you're after, you could do much worse.
Judging by the number of customers I see, I suspect your fare is rather more than decent. Speaking of your clientele, I could not help but note a difference between those who frequent the upper and lower floors.
Spotted that, did ya? Aye, up here you'll find peddlers, porters, off-duty knights, and so forth, dropping in on their way to or from somewhere else. Regulars, maybe, but not locals. Folks from the Broom, they tend to congregate downstairs, where we offer a menu more suited to their tastes. Cheaper meals, stronger spirits, a quality mind, but not the sort of stuff I'd recommend to yourselves.
You speak of the lowest levels, yes? Why do they call them the Broom, if I may ask?
Because when the weather's foul and the broom rolls in thick, it's the poor saws living at the bottom who have to deal with it.
I see.
And it's not just the weather. When the Wervins broke through the wards and started tearing up the city, it was the Broom that got the worst of it, while the Pillars enjoyed the protection of the High Houses and the Temple Knights. More than a few people are still sore about that mine, which is why, considering your present company, I'd recommend you keep your wits about you, if you mean to go below. And something sharp in your boot, just to be sure.
I shall take your words to heart, sir.
Master Arthur, I think it would be best if we returned to Fortop Manor.
You go on ahead without me. I'm staying for a drink or two.
Mr. Torrio, I am afraid that is out of the question. My Lord the Count would never forgive me if I abandoned one of his charges in such a place. At least of all a maiden.
What are you up to, Tataru? Look around, Alphino. This tavern is full of people whose business regularly takes them beyond the gates of judgment. With friends like that, I could practically live here and wait for the newest gossip to come to me. Indeed, but will you be safe here on your own? Oh, please. Do you know how often I looked after the waking sands and the rising stones by myself? If I had a guild for every unwelcome caller I'd driven away, I'd be rich beyond my wildest dreams. I'll be fine.
Not that I doubt the lady's knack for fending off unwanted advances, but I'll be damned if I'm going to let anyone lay an unwelcome hand on a patron in my establishment.
That settles it then, Tataru. Rouge and I shall return to the manor for now. Contact me by link pearl if you require assistance. I will. Don't you worry, Ruja. If there's any news of our friends, I'll find it.
Always a pleasure to greet a new customer. Something I can do for you, friend. What do you do here? Being that it's my tavern, I suppose I can do whatever I please. For the most part, I dispense drinks and advice, as the situation warrants. It wasn't always my duty. Wasn't always so. I did my duty, took my wounds, hung up my shield, as did the owner before me. You might call it a tradition. They say that the sir who built this tavern was happy to be forgotten. Rather serve ale instead of steel. Had a way with words, he did, and with women. That's a story for another time. What kind of place is this? Of all the taverns in all of Ishgard, she walks into mine. Forgotten Night is just another place for travelers and locals alike to partake in food and drink. Upstairs, you'll like to find more well-to-do regulars mingling with the travelers. Downstairs, well, that's where you'll find the real locals. Right or wrong, people do have a habit of sticking with their own, and Ishgardians are no different. They got different tastes, to say the least, but we try to cater them all the best we can.
Whee!
Oh God, they're all dead. We killed them. I'll help you, miss. Bowl of beets, small beer, perhaps. Ah, him? Lost his little girl to the pox. Best leave him be. Poor guy.
Bricked!
Aye, days of Ishgardian night grow colder, but the weather is not to blame.
Light of cold can be cruel at times, but the feeling of hopelessness and despair chills our people to the core. Everyone has been watching too much Danganronpa the animation.
Welcome, Miss Lorelei. Shall I show you inside the manor? Yes, please. Anything else to say?
How did you find our city? Most beautiful, is it not?
Is that... Ah, it is the smell of mead, newly come and already sampling the delights of our taverns. Oh yes, I like you. I like you a lot.
Ah, pray do not concern yourself with me, madam.
Small child detected.
Tell us, Master Alphino, does Ishgard meet with your expectations? That which I imagined pales in comparison to the reality, and I felt the weight of 1,000 years of history with every step I took. And when those steps took me past the scars left by the wyverns in Foundation, I understood how easily that history could end in tragedy. That attack was devastating, the casualties unspeakable. The wyverns did not discriminate. Unarmed men and women, even children, were given no quarter. Sir Aymeric has ordered his knights to strengthen our defenses, and each house has been called upon to lend what support it can. There's more to be done, much to be done, yet, alas, able-bodied men and women are in short supply. Mayhap we could be of assistance, my lord. After all you've done for us, we would welcome any opportunity to repay your kindness. That is a most generous offer, Master Alphino. You are guests in my home, to whom I have extended my hospitality without obligation, let or lien. Nevertheless, Ishgard's need is great, and if you are willing to aid our cause, I cannot well refuse. Good. What will you ask of us? From what I have heard, you are an intelligent and persuasive young man. Such qualities may prove useful to us in our efforts to secure provisions from foreign sources, identifying trustworthy suppliers, brokering contracts, and so on. Yes, Alphino is great at finding out who's trustworthy. I shouldn't hold that against him too much. As for you, Mistress Lorelei, I could ask for no one better than a storied veteran such as yourself, a woman with the capacity to act swiftly and decisively when needed, to aid Artorel and Amanalaine in their duties. I beg your pardon? I am more than capable of carrying out my duty myself. I have no need of our honored guest's assistance. Now, be reasonable, brother. What manner of fool would say no when a famous hero offered to do his work? Hit him. Hit him right now. Hold your tongues. By the Fury, the two of you will conduct yourselves with dignity befitting your station and show Mistress Lorelei the respect she deserves. This is the woman who slew Gaius Van Baelsar and some half-dozen primals besides. She's not here to steal your glory or serve as your errand girl. And yet... If you can pardon them their impropriety, Mistress Lorelei, I should be much obliged if you would lend my sons a helping hand. Sure? My thanks. Fury willing, they may even learn something from you. My two shit sons, who I hate. I look forward to working with you, Ruta. It's going to be grand. I've given this guy 5 different voices because I just can't figure out what I'm doing for him. Please, look after Lord Amanalaine, Mistress Lorelei. Where the fuck? Oh, there he is. Oh, forgive me, Mistress Lorelei. I was unprepared for my father's decision. Mr. Node? 'Twould seem we shall not want for employment for the coming days, though that was never in doubt. Our host's initial reluctance to accept our offer of aid was solely for the appearance's sake. In truth, he is glad of this opportunity to put us to work. By granting us patronage, House Fortom has taken a tremendous risk. Until we demonstrate our worth to Ishgard at large, the Count will face considerable opposition from his peers in matters great and small. And so he would have us publicly serve Ishgard, while simultaneously keeping his sons in check. 'Tis an arrangement we may benefit from in unexpected ways. My own duties may feasibly bring me into contact with people who know something of our missing comrades. And as you go about helping our two lords with their various responsibilities, you will inevitably make new acquaintances in Ishgard, mayhap even new allies. Yes, the more I think on it, the more confident I am that by furthering their goals, we shall further our own. And we get a funny hat that I can't wear. We did it. Alright, now fuck these two guys. We gotta go do shit. We got stuff to do. That actually took far less time than I was expecting. I don't know why I necessarily thought that exploring this entire place would take 4 hours, but, I mean, you know, there's quests to do and stuff, so we'll do that. Speak with Tosser here. Torsifer seeks assistance with a rather delicate issue. Excuse me, adventurer. I would be ask a favor of you on behalf of House Forton. My lord is hosting a banquet and requests attendance from the other high houses. Take these invitations and see they're delivered at once. Of course, you will likely not be granted an audience with the lords and ladies of the high houses. Leaving these with the guards will do, but they must be delivered. Do not let the guards intimidate you. If they will not permit you entry, leave the invitations with them. Sure. What business have you with House Halienarte? Formal invitation, a sealed envelope containing an official invitation to a banquet hosted by House Forton. An invitation to dine with House Forton. Me lord would be honored to attend. But I'm afraid he's quite busy at present, what with the breach of Ishgard's defenses and rising heretic activity. Can't rightly say he's too busy, though. That's for him to decide. You have me word that this invitation will be delivered. I'll deliver this invitation personally. You have me word. Over to the Athenium Astrologium. There's a quest down there as well we can pick up. Hello. This is the residence of House Dismail. If you have no business here, I must ask you to leave. I have this for you. A banquet hosted by House Forton. I see. No, it's nothing. It's just... my lord has been tied up with the restoration of Falcon's Nest. I imagine making the time to attend will be difficult. Nevertheless, I will see to it that he receives the invitation. Oh wait, double check. My lord is a busy man, but you can be sure he will have this invitation. Alright, once we finish these quests, then we will probably have time to pick up at least one of the jobs. The best laid plans. Silo cannot help but frown as she reads over her work. You've the look of someone in need of a task. Well, it just so happens I am looking for a helping hand. One of our delivery airships is under repairs, and we're in the midst of preparing a test flight. Ensuring a safe flight path is of the utmost importance, and I need someone to take this flight plan to Janiquard of the Athenium Astrologicum. I would be ever so grateful if you could take it to him. Cannot afford anything to go awry with the test. Please see this plan to Janiquard immediately. You will find him at the Athenium Astrologicum. Some kids hanging out, sure. Alright, we'll talk with all these people in just a bit. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna start with Astrologian, I think. My order for all this stuff is, healers, tanks, DPS is usually how I do my leveling for this character. Sorry, give me just a sec. I'm looking through my notes on something. Okay. Yeah, I don't really have an idea for what to do for this guy.
Greetings and welcome to the Athenium Astrologicum. Might I ask what drew you to this place of learning?
Airship flight plan, a slip of parchment documenting plans for an airship test flight.
Ah, a message from Miss Cilio. Another test flight I see, and it leaves us pressed for time. Our knowledge of the dragon's hunting cycles indicate they will be quite active around this time. I need not tell you what will happen if any of our airships encounter them. That is why our astrologians must interpret the stars for signs of Dravenian activity before airships are permitted leave. But laying the shipment would have grave repercussions. Our only option is to hasten repairs on the airship. Pray, speak with Frommelout at the Sky Steel Manufactory and see if there's aught he can do. Hi. Now we're going to the other place that we needed to go to. But first, we'll swing by Durandare Manor. What business brings you to House Durandare? Speak up.
Invitation. Here you go, have fun. House with dinner with House Toms. And whose favor do they aim to gain this time? Not that it concerns you, but House Durandare and House Fortomp don't exactly see eye to eye. Little wonder they would ask you to deliver this missive. But far be it from me to exacerbate matters. Their invitation will be delivered. What my lord does with it is not my concern. The invitation will be delivered in due time. Now please stop loitering about the manor. Eat shit, buddy. You're not my dad. Also, Otaku, just to make sure I know what you mean, what do you mean by journal entries, or hidden journal entries that vanish if you're not careful? Landing a stable job. Matthew is looking for an adventurer who's not afraid of a little hard work. I'm arrived. Hello, Kent! What's this? Looking for a bit of work, are we? You don't look to be one strapped for coin, but I never turn away anyone looking to make an honest gill. Would you mind taking a sack of chocobo fodder down to the holy stables in the Foundation? The stable master, Sevilla, is expecting a delivery. She paid me up front, but fear not, that was merely for the fodder. There's still a delivery charge, and you're welcome to it if you take the fodder down there for me. Have to check your journals constantly because the entries change as you progress. Well, I mean, all of those proceed, and I haven't really been reading the journal entries other than ones that I find funny, because that is so much more. I wouldn't dream of denying willing volunteers the chance to make a few gil. Any payment offered upon delivery is yours to keep. Oh, actually, we should just go through here, because it's easier that way. Hello. Hasten repairs of the airship. Easier said than done, my friend. Pick up the hunts you could do? Yes, I did that. Not in the normal sense of changing journal entries. At one point it possibly just says turn back now or something. Interesting. I'll check them as I go through them. We primarily oversee the production of dragon-slaying weapons, such as ballistas and Bertha cannons, under orders from House Hallion. Magitech utilized these airships is most certainly not within our regular field expertise. It is no simple matter to rush anything. But I suppose if we are to contend with the Horde, it cannot be helped. Tell Silo we will do what we can. Well, I'm not sure how we'll manage it. Diverting more of our men to work on the repairs should satisfy Silo's fight schedule. Please inform her we will finish as soon as we're able. Oh, I haven't talked to you. This gate leads to the Western Highlands, but it won't do you any good if you haven't got wings. Alright. Am I winning? Yeah, I would say I'm winning. My voice isn't, but, you know. Welcome to the Holy Stables. What can I do for you? Chocobo fodder, a mixture of chopped fresh greens and hay for delivery to the Holy Stables. Oh, the fodder! Splendid. The chocobos are in for a treat. We specialize in the breeding and training of cavalry chocobos, so they must have nothing but the very best. They're put through an admittedly harsh training regimen, and only a chocobo of the finest stock can endure it. That's why my assistant and I... Wait a second, where is my assistant? No doubt he's run off to the Lightfeather Proving Grounds again. Would you be a dear and go get him for me? And tell him to expect chocobo fodder for breakfast if he doesn't hurry. Wager a month of his pay he's spectating Lightfeather Proving Grounds. Could you call him back here? We have work to do. Sure. We'll also swing by the levees area. Beg your pardon, but you are Mistress Lorelei, I presume. Just the woman I was looking to see. It happens I have a proposition for you. You see, in accordance with the Lord Commander's orders, we have established a new system similar to the one administered by the Adventurers Guild of Eorzea. We are to document the petitions of people and distribute them to motivated individuals like yourself. Were you to assist us with these levs, man, we would be most grateful, and we would compensate you accordingly. Neat. And we'll switch to this. Morgaine is curious whether a talented individual like yourself is familiar with the latest fad. You're an alchemist, yes? Aye, I thought so. I pride myself in having an eye for talent, and you, miss, have it in abundance. I don't suppose you've heard of this new collectibles fad, have you? No, oh, we've got to do something about that. Here, take this letter to Lyra Lona in Revenant's Toll. She'll take care of the rest. Man, I gotta go to fucking Revenant's Toll. We'll do that later. Really now, someone with your talent ought to have learned about this collectibles by now. You should head Revenant's Toll right this instant. Hello. Remembering Ishgard, this fury-fearing Elzen has a story to tell. I take it by your garb you are not from around here, am I right? Sights of the city must be quite the spectacle. Did you pronounce the CH in alchemist? Yeah, of course I did. There are letters, why should I not pronounce the letters? Silly. Circus Garen. The sights of our city must be quite the spectacle. It is a place rich with history, a story for every brick that paves our streets or frames our hearths and homes. There's much to learn of Ishgard, and I suppose I can teach you a thing or two. Chemist. If you care to listen to this old man's tales, pray to meet me at the St. Renet's Forum. Sure. We'll go back over there, fine. Wrong. But I said the letters that were there. They wouldn't make silent letters. That doesn't make any sense. It's ridiculous. Ah, so you've come to partake in my company, eh? Let me start with the statue that stands before you. This is Saint Renet, a dragoon of great renown, said to have wielded the gay bolg. According to legend, a dragoon slew her beloved, and naught but its blood could atone for what she lost. After much searching, she confronted the beast, and that would be the last time she wielded a lance. Upon exacting her revenge, they say she cast it aside on the ground where the dragon was felled, taking up the cloth in its place. From then on, she devoted her life to uplifting the poor and downtrodden. Shirt and gloves? Oh, thank you. I dare say there has never been a man or woman so selfless as she in our history, and so the Ark of the Humble was constructed, that we should never forget her sacrifices. It's perhaps worth mentioning that we of Ishgard take great pride in the works of masonry adorning our streets. You will come to find figures of great esteem and respect immortalized in some fashion at nearly every turn. Now then, let us move on to Saint Valorant's Forum. I shall await you there. Hi. Awesome, thank you. Don't mind these, folks. These are things. These are special tools that will help us later. Hi. This is, or rather was, the statue of Saint Valrayant, an Azure Dragoon of ages past who once drove off the great worm Nidhogg. Surely you've heard of the Azure Dragoon, chosen by the Eye to lead Ishgard's Dragoons in the fight against the Ravanian Horde? Yeah, I am that. But alas, much like this one, a number of our statues in our fair capital have been defaced during a recent attack. Not that we could ever forget in whose name they were erected, mind you. In fact, one could say these disfigurements are like a badge of honor, earned from a clash with our enemy. Quite remarkable, wouldn't you agree? History being made of history, I'd say. I'm afraid that is all I have to tell of our dear city. Though that glimmer in your eye tells me you wish to know more. Speak with Otragon at St. Raymond's Cathedral, and I have no doubt he can regale you with another tale of Ishgard's history. Looking for who? Oh, the stableman. He went inside not long ago. Hey, buddy. Hello there. Come for a few matches as well, I take it? Ah, have you ever seen anything so exhilarating? There is nothing in this world more majestic than the chocobo. Spirited, resilient, with plumage kissed by the golden sun. They are my passion, and I long to someday breed the perfect chocobo. Fortunately, I work at the Holy Stables, or I'd never have the opportunity. You're late for work, by the way. Seville is looking for me. Bugger me with a hay fork. The fodder must have arrived. Those matches will have to wait. Thanks for the tip, friend. Alright, into the Forgotten Night. Drinking the pain away. Gilbrand is never one to leave a patron fallen in the dumps. Hey, you there. Would you mind taking this bottle of mulled wine to the gentleman downstairs? He's a regular around here. A rather affable one at that. For a recent lack of employment, he's been looking to get deep in the cups. Thought I'd treat him to a mug of this today and keep him a bit of weight in his coin purse. Small gesture, I know, but I know he'll appreciate it. And between you and me, I think he could use a sympathetic ear right now. Oh wow, look at you, Tataru. You know, I think waiting tables rather suits me. I get to meet all sorts of interesting people, and to top it off, they pay me to do it. Now, don't go getting the wrong idea. This is purely for our benefit. I'm learning all about Ishgard, and all proceeds are going right into the Scion's coffers. Atta girl. Bibulous bloke.
How did this happen? I feel like I'm trapped in some walking nightmare.
Take this mulled wine, sour red cooked with various spices, and citrus rinds over a low flame as to preserve the alcoholic content.
Sorry about that. What? What's this? No doubt from Gilbrand, that admirable bastard. Just what I need to drown my troubles. I was a knight in the service of a proud, noble family. That is until my dear lady was accused of heresy. Everything changed after that. Their prestige, their pedigree, everything was stripped away, including me. Say, drinking is merely a pause from thinking that I could take from a bottomless mug. Nay, the only thing that stands to wash away is my dignity. Rather than play the drunken fool, I would like to make a gift of this to my lord. Surely this pain I bear is nothing compared next to his, completely unaware that his wife had committed such heinous crimes. He's a good man. He deserves better, but this is all I can offer him now. I am loath to impose upon your kindness further, but could you take this to him in my place? To let him see me in my current state would be disgraceful. I imagine he's still at the airship landing in the Pillars. My lord is likely at the airship landing, but I feel it would not be long before he departs. Please hurry. And Brett. Looking to keep warm tonight. Excuse me, miss, do you have a spare wood for a fire? Small bundle, or even a few twigs would do.
Of course not. That's a bundle of sticks could warm the hands of so many. The dragons have left Foundation in shambles. Countless men and women are without shelter, the bitter chill of death breathing down their necks. I fear some might not even live to see through the night. I implore you, please speak with Von Sant at the congregation. Tell him we must have firewood for the citizens here at the Broom.
Excuse me.
Hey, firewood, please. Is there aught I can help you with? Firewood. I see. I'm hardly blind to the plight of my people, but firewood is something of a commodity these days. Can't fan it out freely as I might otherwise. However, I may have a solution. During the most recent Dravanian assault, a number of buildings were destroyed. I thought it a grave misfortune, but there may yet be a silver lining. The timber we've collected from those buildings is unfit for reconstruction. You take as much as you like to the Broom. Destruction of those buildings is a travesty beyond measure, but perhaps we can yet make something of a bad situation. Take as much of the wood to the Broom as you feel is necessary. Vincent consent to aid us. Was there any wood to spare? Yep. My word, I don't know what to say. How did he amass such quantities? No matter. Go and distribute this to the people down below. We must do what we can before this cold claims any more lives. Hurry down below and hand out as much as you can. We need save as many as we can. Hi. Ah, what I wouldn't give for a little bit of kindling. Scrap wood. Splintered, knotted, cracked, and worm-eaten, moldering. This wood is no longer suitable for aught but maintaining a fire. For me? Truly. So it's true what they say about asking and receiving? Thank you. A frozen Vagrante. Could bear this cold no longer. Perhaps I should... What? Firewood? Bless you, miss, bless you. Up here. Here we go. It's so cold I can't feel my hands anymore. Unless you have this. Wood for a fire. Oh, thank you, miss. Thank you. Looks like we got a little bit more. It's cold, so very cold. Firewood? Oh, Helone be praised. My, that's quite a load of timber there. Surely you don't mean to distribute all that by yourself. Why not let me handle that for you? It's the least I can do to repay your kindness. Leave it to me. I know these streets like the back of my hand. Folks will be warming themselves all along these streets in no time flat. Thanks again, miss. Well, I'll be seeing you. How nice. Hi. You do our patron saints proud. Now then, let us take what remains somewhere safe. I gave it to a kid. What? A young Elzen girl offered to ration out the rest of you? I'm afraid to say you've been duped. She is a thief and rather well known here in the Broom. She bears no ill intentions, but this is a fair deal more serious than her usual antics. These are hard times, and I understand how destitution drives one to desperation. We cannot afford to tolerate her selfish actions. Not now. Pray no one shall want for warmth tonight, but we must recover the firewood, and soon. Well, you can do that. I'm done for the day. I gotta go do other shit. I'll head back to the stable to turn that shit in, and then, up to the cathedral, I suppose? He practically tripped over himself running in here not long ago. Thank you for finding him. He'll have to buckle down if he's serious about becoming a realm-renowned breeder, though he's off to a good start having come here. Ishgard is famous for raising chocobos, you know. They've always been steed of choice on the battlefield. The proving grounds, where you found my starry-eyed assistants, ensure they got plenty of practice. Well, I'd say it's practice, but it also makes a good show for the folks spectating as well. You should see for yourself sometime. Nothing like feathers flying from two chocobos fluttering, almost dancing back and forth in the arena. You'll quickly come to understand why they call it the Light Feather Proving Ground. And as long as this stable stands, you can be sure our chocobos will be there. I'll confess this weather has been more than unkind to our chocobo chicks, but we have tradition and a reputation to uphold. And we got a Thavnarian onion. A pungent, tear-inducing vegetable that thrives in the alkali sounds of Near Eastern Thavnar. It is favorite among chocobos. Cool. Cathedral. Hi. Greetings, friend. Halone's blessing be upon you. Ah, you wish to know of Ishgard's history. 'Tis not often travelers come seeking such knowledge. Holy See of Ishgard is home to a myriad patron saints for which many places are named. In fact, this cathedral was named for the first archbishop to oversee the Ishgardian Orthodox Church. They are testament to the unshakable will of our people, to the unity in the battle against the Dravanian horde. I realize there is much of our people you do not know, and we would not force our views upon you. Doubt. Rather, we ask you to not decry our pursuit of our destiny, the righteous path we walk by the grace of Halone, our truest savior. We'll get, I don't know, this, or something. Is this something that has a description? Kind of. This concoction reduces the rate at which your equipment undergoes wear, whatever. Over to the last Vigil. And so you've returned. I hope you were not met with too much hostility. High houses of Ishgard are descended from the heroes who once fought alongside Haldreth, the first Azure Dragoon. Their ancestors were the founders of Ishgard, and it is from their bloodlines the Archbishop is chosen. There is no force greater than their combined strength when pitted against the Horde. When vying for power here in Ishgard, however, they are like corals fighting against territory in a small pit. To involve yourself in politics here is a dangerous game. You do well to remember that. I just realized I don't have my fucking cozy gear on. Let me change that real quick. Where is it? There it is. Whew, thank God. I was getting cold. Hello, you look like a title strip noble. Yes, can I help you with something? Mulled wine. I already read that. After all that has happened, he still thinks to put me first. Would that I could do more for him, but alas, I have lost nearly everything. My title, my land, my wife. She was accused of heresy, and I did all within my power to advocate for her innocence. But in the end, there was naught I could do but to forestall the hand of judgment. I was a man of great station, yet I have never felt so low, so helpless. But the Fury has spoken, and to refuse her is perhaps a greater crime than those thrust upon my beloved wife. Now, if you'll excuse me, it is nearly time to... Where did he run off to? I'm terribly sorry to trouble you, but could you help me look for my son? We can ill afford to be late. I doubt he has gone far. Please help me find him. Alright, we'll run back up there real quick, just to... Hey, buddy. Father searching for me? Then it is time. Forgive me. Father insisted we leave immediately, but I had to see for myself. This is where they took my mother to receive Halone's judgment. He said that he would fight for her, that justice would be served. But in the end, justice took my mother away from us. Perhaps if I had been stronger, I could have won the battle that my father did not. Well, I must be going. Goodbye, miss. Alright, back. Almost done with the quests, and then we could actually do the unlocking. We are probably only going to have time for one, because, I mean, I could go for 4 hours, but I'd really prefer not to. At least not on a weeknight. And, my voice hurts, so, you know. Oh, thank goodness. The swiftness is of your report is most appreciated. The advent of the airship is truly a wonderful thing, but not without its hindrances, as you can see. They allow us to cross the ice wall blocking passage to western Korthus and navigate the Sea of Clouds, but Halone have mercy on the ship that should encounter dragons. That is why the Holy See has seen fit to employ machinists and astrologians in the operation of our airships. Neat. Speaking of astrologians, let's go deal with some. Yep. Hello. The ever-tightening grip of this unnatural winter has proven far more than a nuisance for many in my field. Stars can tell us little if their message is forever hidden behind a veil of storm clouds. True, I guess. Hi. This is a star globe. Upon it you shall find a map of the very heavens above us. Any self-respecting astrologian would not fathom taking something so delicate out into the elements, let alone into battle. While sailors use the pole star for guidance, we astrologians look to the dragon star, for its position and magnitude in relation with neighboring celestial bodies can reveal where and when the Dravanian horde will strike next. Like the red star in Bonkel. Why can't the Viscount put anything away? The star has changed from its magnitude from 4 to 5. Heavens to Murgatroyd! What, pray tell, brings you to the Athenium? We are not a guild like one might find in the lower city-states. No one here will take you under their wing, hold your hand as they divulge centuries of cumulative knowledge to any mere stranger who believes herself entitled to it. Well, almost no one, that is. Tell me of yourself. My name is Guiliset. I am a second year in my studies on the coveted path of becoming an astrologian. All novitiates are assigned a task at the Athenium to which we are required to attend between our classes. Stars saw it fit that I be assigned receptionist duty with Lord Janquinard. He's by no means a bad man, only a tad eccentric. Being the second son to Count de Durandare means he is free to do as he wishes, and most of the time he wishes to play call on the city-states as young maidens, despite being almost as old as mine own father. The rest of the time, he continues his studies of Charlian astrology, something he began almost 20 summers ago when he spent time in the now abandoned city-state training with the heathen astrologians. His bloodline protects him from the scrutiny of higher-ranking officials here, but it is his lack of talent which truly keeps the wolves at bay. In other words, he's harmless. I'm merely required to suffer his whims until I pass my examinations and get assigned a position at the observatorium. Then some new novitiate will be assigned the post and the cycle will continue as it has for more than a decade. What's this place? The Athenium Astrologicum was founded by Saint Guirinol to serve as a place where astrologians such as myself might learn and perfect methods used to read the stars. Since the discovery by Adenal the Younger that the Dravanian horde were using the relative position of a celestial body we now refer to as the Dragon Star to determine their attacks on the Holy See, we have been seeking to decipher the Dragon's code. Theories constructed here are subsequently taken south to the observatorium, where they are put into practice. We also offer limited training in Charlian astrology, a school of star reading nearly recognized nor approved by the Athenium, the Observium, or the Holy See. The only reason I ever mention it is because I have been commanded to by Lord Janquinard. Tell me of astrology. Astrology originated thousands of years ago in Charlian, and was introduced to Eorzea when the Charlians founded their colony in the Dravanian hinterlands. It remained a minor field of study, eclipsed by larger ones such as conjury or thaumaturgy, by Eorzeans, until 3 centuries ago when an Ishgardian astrologian by the name of Adenal the Younger discovered that the stars could be used to determine the movements of the Dravanian horde. It was then that Ishgardian astrology was born, the focus on moving from fortune-telling and fate-scrying to something actually useful, preventing the death of knights by knowing when and where the horde would arrive. Yeah, you guys have been really good at that so far. How'd that attack on the fucking city go, dickhead? You will not see an Ishgardian astrologian carrying a star globe or an astrolabe. You will not see him consulting with a divining deck or gazing into the stars, hoping to draw forth its ether and use it to manipulate fates. Well, why not? That sounds really useful, actually. You will not hear talk of the gates of the 7 heavens or the chantings of minor spell woven to heal cuts or emasculate sword arms. Well, you will not hear these things as long as you keep your distance from Lord Janquinard. I cannot stress enough that sounds incredibly useful. You dickhead. Alright, buddy. Greetings and welcome to the Athenium Astrologicum. Perhaps you were drawn by fate to this place of learning, or perhaps you wish to know more of fate itself. Yeah, sure. Then you were wise to come hither, for in the stars are written the fates of every woman and man on Hydaelyn. It was there in the stars that a woman would call upon the Athenium this very day, a woman who would play an important role in my own life. But my apologies, even the most skilled reader cannot scry a name from the heavens. Would you be so kind as to give me yours, so that I might know who is to be my newest protege? Sure, I'm Ruja Lorelei. Ruja. Well, I was not expecting that, but what is a name but an attempt to our begetters to wield power over the lives of their sons and daughters? Lives whose paths have already been foretold. In a sense, that is. My name is Janiquar de Durandare, and I am an astrologian for the Holy See. Remember that name, for it shall echo forevermore in the annals of Ishgardian history. Well, it will once I put it there. Once we put it there. Stairway to the heavens. Janiquar of the Athenium Astrologicum simply cannot take his eyes off you. Ruja is pretty cute. Now, where to begin? I suppose I could consult my divining deck for an answer, but that would be too easy now, wouldn't it? Very well, at the beginning it is. Astrology, or the reading of the stars, is a branch of aetherological science which originated in distant Charlian. There have been astrologians in Ishgard for thousands of years, but it was until 3 centuries ago when Adonel the Younger learned that the moon and the stars could also be used to foresee the moons and the drumming and horn and the field very popular. Since then, what was once a single science is bifurcated into 2 similar, yet ultimately different schools of learning: Charlian School of Astrology and the Ishgardian School, formed placing a focus on tapping celestial ether and transforming it into beneficial magics, or astromancy, the latter specializing solely in determining the actions of our dragon enemies to the north. I am a student of the former, the only student of the former here in Ishgard, and I have been actively seeking a partner with whom to conduct my research. Let us just say that my fellow astrologians have been less than approving of my path, but that is simply because they are afraid of what they do not know. Once they do know how Charlian astrology can benefit the Cian soldiers, they will feel foolish for having doubted me. Us. You will be joining me, will you not? Walking the path that has been laid out before you, instead of stubbornly denying your fate, postponing the inevitable? Yeah, sure. I see you wasted no time making your decision. Like I always say, the stars are never wrong. Alas, even a lifetime of study cannot unlock all the secrets written in the stars. Myself, I have been a student of the astromantic arts for more summers than I can count. I still oft misread the signs shown to me in the skies, though my readings are far more accurate now than they were when I attended the Athenium in Charlian. Not the Charlian, mind you, the colony that once thrived in the Dravanian hinterlands. I can recall my time there like but it was yesterday. The first 6 moons, I was not even allowed to touch the deck of 60, let alone conduct a reading with the major arcana. Most of my time was spent in the scriptorium, transcribing old tomes on astrological fundamentals such as the 6 elemental houses, divine duplicity, class triplicity, modern modality, polarity, dignus versus detriment. I abhorred the task, and would tirelessly pester my instructors as to when I might actually be accounted the opportunity to weave a spell or perform a reading. It wasn't until the end of the 6th moon that I realized all the transcribing had prepared me with the essentials I would need to do those very things. The positions of the celestial bodies within the 6 elemental houses and their relation to the major and minor arcana of the deck of 60, therein lie the secrets to tapping the ethereal power locked in the heavens. And soon, you too will become privy to these secrets. But not this day. No, I would not have you transcribe musty old tomes like I was once forced to do. No, the task I have for you is much more interesting. You see, I am expecting an arrival of a very important guest. My old mentor from the Studium has agreed to make the journey from the old world to Ishgard and speak with the Holy See regarding the implementation of Charlian astrological techniques in city-state defense. Alas, the professor and his party are now 7 days late in arriving, and I have begun to worry for their safety. I should be much obliged, therefore, if they would inquire to the other astrologians here at the Athenium, if you have heard aught. Beg pardon? If the professor is so important to me, why haven't I asked them myself? Let us just say the other astrologians and I do not always see eye to eye on everything. Or, in fact, on everything. Did you cover shout Charlian because they didn't say old? No, I cover shouted Charlian because I wanted to emphasize the fact that this entire, science that Ishgard purports to be the only true astrology is actually something they stole from Charlian because it originated there. It's from there. It's like a white guy saying, we perfected Chinese food when we started our Chinese restaurant in after we gentrified this old project house. You know, it's literally just that, and it pisses me off. I fucking hate Ishgard. Sorry. Why would Lord Janiquard think I have information on the whereabouts of a handful of unbelievers from across the blood-brine sea? I'm an astrologian, not a fortune teller. I cannot simply look to the stars and scry the location of the Viscount's guests, unless his guests are dragons, that is. I suppose if anyone knew aught, it would be the observatorium. We here at the Athenium are but students dedicated to research. Those with any field of our influence in our field are assigned to the astroscope. Let me guess, the Lord Janiquard, he said he saw you in a vision, and the stars told him you were to study astrology with him. Am I close? You must be the 100 of his little pets to pester me this week alone. I harbor no ill will towards ignorant unbelievers unlucky enough to find themselves caught up in talk of stars and fortunes, but you may tell the sorry excuse for an astrologian for the umpteenth time that I heard naught concerning his imaginary friends from faraway Charlian. Just do not tell the Viscount I called him for a sorry excuse for an astrologian, all right? I think I will actually tell him that. That would be very funny. Janiquard is still waiting word from his missing Charlians instead of actually making an effort to find them, is he? Of course he is. In any wonder that in nearly 15 years since his return from Charlian, his skill in astromancy has remained unchanged. Any wonder that he has never yet managed to convince a single peer on the value of Charlian school? He's a privileged little sprat who spends more time gazing at the stars in young maidens' eyes than actually trying to read the ones above his head. All right, you tell the poor man I just returned from the observatorium, and one night the communal feasting hall happened to overhear Chief Astrologian Formont speaking with one of his aides regarding Charlian. He was visibly upset, and I wasn't about to risk my career over something I knew little about, so I merely put my head down and ate my beet soup. But that is all I know, and you didn't hear it from me. You met a fellow Aura in the broom. Master Forlamont, and I thought the day could not get any worse. No, I'm not suggesting that meeting you in any way has been unfortunate. It's just that it may not be in our best interest to be seen together as of yet. Certain people in the sea who do not approve of my studies. Couple that with the fact that you are an outsider and an unbeliever, and, well, people may come to the wrong conclusions. We must act with caution until we can prove that our intentions are just and for the good of Ishgard. So I must ask you to travel to the observatorium alone and meet me there. Beg pardon? Oh, wait, that's fine. Okay. Observatorium. Back here in Square Corthus. Oh yeah, we also have access to the Heavensward class quests as well, but we won't be doing those for a bit yet. Hey, Janaquard, how you doing, buddy? Ruja, allow me to apologize again for not accompanying you here. As for our business with the Chief Astrologian, you may leave the talking to me. It's probably for the best. This guy doesn't like me either. Janaquard, I might have known it would be you. Why, who else would be so indecent as to drag an outsider into this holy place of observation? Hi. Just as a reminder, I saved you guys from dragons. Like twice. A lot. You've always had an unhealthy obsession with the foreign. 'Tis why you are as worthless to the Athenium now as you were when you returned from that heathen city a decade and a half since. But the stars, they can serve us in other ways than merely revealing when the Horde will attack. Their powers can be tapped. The ether within can be used for... The ether should be left be. Has history taught you not of the follow of the Nimians, the Amdapori, the Mahaki, all famous users of astrology? Mine uncle, the Charlians have been wielding astromancy for ages without disrupting ethereal balance. This power, combined with Ishgardian astrology, could be what is needed to turn the tide of this 1,000-year conflict. Moreover, I have reason to believe that our masters at the Vault agree, as they have given me their blessing to continue my research. I did not come to trade barbs with you, Nuncle. Let us save that for another time. I am here because it has come to my attention that you may have information to the whereabouts of Professor Mace and his party from Charlian. For someone who says he is not here to trade barbs, you have been quite generous in your dealing of them today. If it means you will leave and allow me to return to my work of standing here and not doing anything, like a jackass, I would be more than happy to let you know what information found its way just to my desk yesterday morn. Serpent Reaver sightings and foul weather prevented the professor's ship from entering the Strait of Marathor, where they have made their way up the Maiden into Corthus. After detouring around the south of Vilbrand, they finally dismarked at Vesper Bay, where they took to the land route along the Royal Allegan Sunway to the Black Shroud. It is there, they seems, they lost their way. A lost astrologian. Ha! I've literally met a lost astrologian earlier in this questline. Not in this questline, but in Corthus. It is as my morning reading predicted. Dalamud was in detriment in the House of the Spire while ascending over the Ecliptic. Ruja, you must journey to the Black Shroud and assist Professor Mace. Allow me to introduce you to Quimperane. He is my personal manservant and shall accompany you. Hi, nice to meet you. He's not one for conversation, but his sword arm is among the best in the pillars. He should see you safe if any dangers were to befall you, and something tells me the danger lurks on the horizon. How can Dalamud be in retrograde if it fell 5 years ago? It's been in retrograde for 5 years. Retrograde means it fell from the sky, I think. Emily, I don't know if you're here to confirm that for me, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. It is a pleasure to serve you, milady. I shall make haste to Quarry Mill and await you there. Sure, we're gonna make a quick pit stop at Mordona, though. Hey, bud. I know not which is worse, the blasphemous wretch who mocks the very principles in which our field is sown, or the bumbling unbeliever who blindly follows him in hope of gnawing on the scraps he drops in his wake. Kill yourself! Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. But I cannot stress enough that this guy is one of the most despicable motherfuckers in all of Ishgard. And there's a lot of despicable motherfuckers in Ishgard. Hi. Greetings, miss. How may I assist you this day? Letter to Lyrdonia. A handwritten message from Morgaine requesting that Lyrdonia share with you her knowledge of collectibles. Very well. It would be my pleasure to enlighten you. Pretty sure retrograde has to do with which direction the celestial body is moving in relative to the planet's rotation. Okay, so Dalamud was moving down. Got it. As you are doubtlessly aware, there are wealthy individuals who covet certain items, but who would rather pay others to procure them. Rowena's House of Splendors is glad to receive the customs of such individuals. To supply these collectibles, we turn to men and women such as yourself who possess the talents to craft or procure them. Compensation will be commensurate to the collectability of items provided and paid in scrips, which can be exchanged for all manner of fine wares. You may sell these items to the house at any of our branch offices, including those in Limsa Lominsa, Gridania, and Ul'dah. Please be advised that these terms are not negotiable, miss. We appreciate your understanding. Now I've learned collectible actions. God damn it. More like moving left. Go west, craftsman. Reassure that rumors you've heard of true. Rowena's House of Splendors is expanding its operations. I am proud to say these rumors are true. Okay, I'm actually not going to do this one because we can't fucking go to this place yet. There's a fucking reason the other hunt quests haven't been unlocked yet, and it's because we can't fucking go to Idleshire. Regardless. Okay. I don't actually need my cold clothes on right now, thankfully, because it's not that bad here. Hi. Milady, I've questioned the residents of this hamlet and learned that a party of queerly dressed outsiders passed through not a bell ago. I should not prove overly difficult to find them now, but before we begin, might I ask for a moment of your time? I would not dare utter aught ill of my master, but his recent fixation in finding a protege, I believe it ill-considered. This passion, however pure, has left him with more than one enemy within the astrological community. Lord Forlamont has seen to this. I fear not for not only how his name might be sullied, but for his life. I beg of you, pray do not drag him any further down into this quagmire. Let him quietly dabble in his dream, but let it remain at that, a dream. No good will come of encouraging him. It will only hurt the Viscount and his family. You must remember that while I serve Lord Janiquard, it is his uncle, the Count, who employs me. And now, for the task at hand, I suggest we find the wayward travelers and hurry back to our respective hearths. I shall lead. Might I ask you to take the rear and see that none might take us unawares. Damn, it's literally right here. That's crazy.
Grandfather.
These are the Charlians we seek, and it appears they have found themselves some trouble.
Unhand my grandfather.
Ah, feisty. We'll fetch a fine price for that one in the pleasure barge captains.
My funny gummy. Holy shit, is that a fucking rabbit? The soul has spoken.
Grab the old man. These wizard types carry on them all manner of begemmed baubles and gold trinkets.
Up, or I'll toss you to the snakes.
The only snakes around here are the serpents, which would arrest you. You want to see the old man again, you'll leave us the girl. Try anything and he's dead. Wait! Grandfather's soul crystal. Why would he leave it here, surrendering any power he might have had to free himself from the bandits? Unless you were the one he saw in his reading before we left the old world. But that was more than a moon ago. My grandfather scribed from the cards that he would serve as the bridge for countless souls to be passed to another. Might you be that other?
These men of the forest are careless. Tracking them will be no difficult feat. I shall follow and strike before they have time to regroup in numbers.
The stars have spoken and laid their path not before you, but before the adventurer here.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Now I've got your power!
You must take the soul of the astrologian and place it near your heart. Listen to the tales of those who have walked before you, and know their journeys as you do your own. As for the tools you shall require, needed to wield them, I, Leveva, shall see to those matters. You saw there was no fear in my grandfather's eyes when the bandits took him.
No, there was definitely fear in his eyes, I gotta say.
This is because he has seen you come to his rescue. Our lives were written in the stars long before we trod upon this land. It is not by chance that you stand here today with the soul of the astrologian in your hand. It is fate. Stay Night. Remastered, now available on all on PC. And don't worry, the port is fixed for the most part. It isn't encountering that weird bug that it had when it was first released.
Yay! Astrology heads? Any astrology heads in the chat? Alright. Let's pop open a new gear set, and we will rename it to... Let me open my list of names for the sets. Change set name. Salient Siren. That word means what I think it means. Soul of the Astrologian. Upon the surface of this multi-aspected crystal are carved the myriad deeds of astrologians from eras past. Cool. We're full up on pants now. That's probably fine. Alright. Let me, real quick, just, fuck around with my, that goes there, this goes there, this goes here, goes there, this goes there, I guess that'll go there, that'll go here, that'll go here, that there, that there. Yeah, that's probably fine for now. Okay. We have a funny thing now. I find it highly unlikely that a sparkling globe will sufficiently protect you from a bandit's blade. Stay back and leave the fighting to me. I have been a guide in these woods since my 10th name day, yet I've never heard of encountered bandits like these. They are not of the 12's wood. Interesting. Fortune favors the bowl. Leveva waits patiently for you to pull yourself together and equip her grandfather's soul crystal.
Now listen carefully, for we haven't much time. The star globe which you hold is both your sword and shield. It will grant you strength as well as protection, but most of all it will grant you insight into the current location of the stars, enabling you to channel the heavens' ether into your body for use in all manner of magics. The better attuned you become with the heavens and their malefic and benefic bodies, the better that the ether might be manipulated to bring succor or pain. But as you already know, the star globe is not only the tool of an astronomer at your disposal. Yes, the arcana, or more specifically the 6 major arcana, play a defining role in what type of astrologian you will become. Any layman will tell you the cards can predict a man's future. This is both true and untrue. It is not the future that a card predicts, but the card influencing the man's that a certain future becomes more attainable. Seeking to retell a man's fortune, you draw a card from your deck. Upon reading the card, you scry that man what will be his victorious in a coming battle. What is that brings the man victory is but ether tapped from one of the lower 6 heavens, granting the man strength, making it all that much easier for him to overcome his enemy. And of course, what card is drawn is linked directly to the target's destiny, as well as yours. Are you the one who will see this man to fortune, or will you lead him to downfall? It all depends on your reading. Normally, I would not dare cover so much in first a lesson, but it is my grandfather who has placed his life in your hands, and I am not about to watch him have his throat slit, because you cannot tell the face of an arcana from its back. We have 2 seemingly capable soldiers here to take the brunt of the bandits' blows, allow them to carve a trail of carnage while you convince the stars to nudge the 2 in a direction favorable to my kin. I understand this might be a lot to digest, and a lot to fucking read, but if you are ever to become a capable astrologian, you must believe in the path laid out before you, and in your power to read it, follow it, and ultimately control it. Take some time to acclimate yourself to your new abilities, and tell me when you're ready to begin. Okay. Where is Benefic? There it is. Excuse me while I do this. Just fuck around with that a little bit. That's gonna go here. That's gonna go there. That goes over here. This is going to go over here. That goes here. I'll finish setting up everything else later, but for now, put that there, I guess. I see in your eyes that you are ready. Whether this actually makes you ready or not, only time will tell. Unfortunately, it is something we no longer have in abundance. Let us take to the shadows and find out where these bandits are holding my grandfather. May the stars be our guide. Oh wow, got night real fast. Do not let these bandits stand in the way of us locating my grandfather. Alright, so... Oh, hang on. A card. This is a card from my grandfather's deck. He's leaving us a trail to follow. Ruja, its power is now your own. Hi, Scoos. Doing pretty good. Voice is, falling apart at the seams, but whatever. There are 6 major arcana. We must find the other cards. And as we all know, the arcana is the means by which all is revealed. Go get him. So it's been bothering you all day? I'm sorry to hear that. Drop another card. There's an arrow over there. The Arcana is the means by what now? Sorry, I didn't catch that. You'll have to say it 10 more times at least. We'll get to that, I'm sure. Here's the ewer. Fuck. Let me pick it up. Don't bother me, please. Thank you. Oh god. Please help me. I don't know, there we go. You know, I'm not really sure how I feel about the new Astrologian stuff. I kind of hate that literally every single, expansion they come up with new Astrologian, and that's really frustrating. Just cut it out, guys. Just pick one and stick with it, please. Oh, fuck. Must suck to get reworked every expansion. It's true. Not like Monk, the best class that doesn't get reworked every expansion. Fuck you. The Spear. And that's the last of the major arcana. And there's Mace. Excellent. Alright, let's kill these fuckers. Throw down your weapons, Kerr. You have no choice but to release the Professor or meet the same fate as your men. No choice, eh? What if our choice was to cross along blades, houseboy? Come closer and let us end this. Hey, she's summoning something. Cut that out. A deep void eye. A void scent! This bandit is more than she appears. She's more than meets the eye. Oh god. What the fuck is that? An Arcanum marionette. That doesn't seem right. Stop taking damage. Also, guys, dodge the AoEs. We did it! Hooray! Whew. I was not told there would be 2 Astrologians. Enough of this. I'm Quimperane, in the employ of Lord Jean Quinard. I am sent to escort you back to Ishgard. Are you unhurt, my lord?
Janiquard, you say? Where's my former student? His constant pestering is one of the reasons I agreed to make the long trip from the old world.
I see none but Quimperane in this adventurer.
I too have seen no other.
Just like you didn't see those bandits until their knives were up our arses, but that is of no matter.
It was all as the stars had foretold.
Hi. Yep, it sure was.
Yes, I saw this adventurer long before even setting foot on this accursed continent when the Arcana whispered and told me I would find a worthy successor for my soul crystal.
And having witnessed how she eased into her new role, but mere moments after taking up the crystal globe and deck.
Yes, I knew at once my reading was true, and that this adventurer was the astrologian I had been seeking. But now let us see if she has the potential for greatness within her. Look to the skies, Ruja. There you will see 6 stars aglow in a pale yellow. This is the bowl. This constellation is thought to be the gate to the first heaven, the heaven which holds the world tree. Planting by the matron and nurtured by the keeper, this world tree is the source from which all life is said to have sprung. The trunk of the world tree, or the bowl, grants strength to the weak, allowing them to stand firm in the face of adversity. Holy shit, look at that! You have now opened that gate, and its power is yours to command. A solid bowl represents a solid foundation. It is not coincidence that this very constellation has risen to mid-heaven at this very moment, the moment of a new astrologian's birth. And to think, I saw all this a moon ago. It seems I am a better reader of fates than I thought. But I jest. It has been a long journey with more than its share of unexpected excitement. I'm an old man. One does not need a deck of arcana to see that my weary legs will not carry me much further. Let us make haste to Ishgard, so I may give that ungrateful Janiquard a proper upbraiding.
You got it, Chief. Thanks for the cool cards, I guess. Alright, once we finish this quest, that is where I'll call it, and I will do leveling and stuff off stream. And then next stream for A Realm Reread, we will pick up Machinist and Dark Knight as well, and do those quests so I can get those leveling. And if we have time, Samurai and Red Mage. Although, you know what? No, not Samurai and Red Mage, actually. We'll do those at a later time. Look at how fucking empty this floor looks. Looks bizarre.
Janiquard, 15 summer passed, and still the flippant clod I lost half of my hair tutoring, sending an adventurer to find the man you summoned halfway across Heidlin.
How long do you think you get to a point where you can start doing the hunts? I can do rank 1 and rank 2 hunts right now.
Always taking the easy route, and you wonder why you still haven't been able to open the second heaven's gate?
Allow me to explain, Professor. You see, I was waiting here in case you made it to Ishgard before my manservant and Ruja could locate you. Think of all the confusion that had you arrived here only to find the Athenium empty. Wait, how do you know I haven't opened all the gates? But you can't you not go out the gates until a bit later in the story? Correct! I have to pick up the quests from the sons before I can do that. My grandfather is the greatest astrologian in all Asharlian. There is naught he doesn't know unless he doesn't wish to know it. You, of all people, should know that. Perhaps I was hasty in my decision to remain here and see to your training.
Train me? You? But what of Professor Mace? Isn't that why he made the journey?
My grandfather has already completed his task. He simply came to Ishgard out of courtesy to an old pupil, one who it appears he wasted years on. How long until you are able to start killing your hunts? A while, probably? Because I'm not going to go into those areas until I've finished getting these 3 classes to 50. So, it's going to be a while. Look at Quibbird smiling at him.
Wasted? What are you implying, my lady? Ah, my dear Leveva, you still do not see it, do you? Without Janquinard stumbling into my tutelage nearly 2 decades past, he never would have taken this adventure under his wing and sent her to us in his stead. It was all the stars as the stars had planned.
Your soul, Crystal Professor! This adventure has stolen your soul of the astrologian!
Ha! Ever the unobservant, Jan. If this adventure had stolen my crystal, Leveva would have read some terrible fate for the lass. No, Ruja is my successor, something I mistakenly thought you might be. But even I cannot see every future, it seems. But do not despair. I have not given up on you completely. Despite your failings, you have tried your best to promote the Sharlayan school of astrology. I hear in this den of fools who still fail to see aught beyond the Dragon Star. I wish to see you continue that fight, and this is why I've bade Leveva to remain here and further your, and this adventurer's trainings.
I see. This is all rather overwhelming. Might I have time to consider your words? No. You either continue your training with me and your protege, or you crawl back into obscurity. I shall give you both several turns of the sun to study the basics of Charlian astrology. Should not be so hard for you, Jean Quinard, considering you've had substantial head start. Once you've committed the basics to memory, then return here. In the meantime, I will be traveling in Eorzea, searching for locations where Ruja and you will unlock the remaining Heaven's Gates. But you were only recently set upon by bandits. Perhaps traveling alone so soon is unwise. Don't you think I know that? That is why you will be lending me the services of your able manservant, Quimperane. I will. Yes, of course, Lady Leveva. Anything for the granddaughter of Charlian's finest professor of astrology. Quimperane, you heard the lady? Very good. I shall see that my grandfather to the airship landing now, but rest assured if you neglect your studies, I will know. And there we go. Astrologian unlocked. Dope. Ah, Lord Jean Quinard's latest conceit. I trust your training is proceeding smoothly? Let's see. Oops. Let's see. Leva is not up there. Hi. Oh, an astrologian now, are we? Then perhaps you can show me the approximate degree of the dragon star's cyclical declination as a result of the precession of the equinoxes when coupled with annual parallax. No? Go fuck yourself, lady. I could tell that your decision to study under Lord Jean Quinard was unwise, but that would imply that I cared. Yeah, I hate every single person in this room. I gotta say. You. As a novitiate here at the Athenaeum, I've been assigned several important tasks outside my regular studies. One of them is delivering updated star maps to the observatorium. Between you and me, I do not see why they simply cannot use Moogles. Good question. Well, my repeatedly fracturing voice tells me that now is a good time to not be doing streaming anymore. So that's gonna be the end of the stream for today, folks. Once again, realistically, I could probably do more. But I'm very tired, and my voice hurts, and I have work tomorrow still. But regardless, I just want to say once again, thank you guys very much for joining me on this, the inaugural episode of Heavensward Reread. Know that it is back in the rotation, which means that right now we are rotating between Overlord, ACAB, and now Heavensward Reread. Depending upon how quickly I am able to get these classes leveled, we may be seeing more of the other games before we see more episodes of this, but be rest assured that as soon as we get past that initial part, we will be continuing the adventures on a more consistent basis. Once again, thank you. I already said thank you guys very much for joining me, yada yada. Remember that I have a second channel in which I upload Let's Plays with my roommate, who you heard do the intro to our stream today. And if you missed the opening to the stream, don't worry. The VOD will be up on my normal YouTube channel by sometime tomorrow afternoon. So if you didn't catch the opening of the stream, please do. I worked really hard on that joke, and I thought it was really funny. Yeah, I think that's about all I have to say. So thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you all later. Let me see if... And not really anybody I want to raid. So we're just gonna fuck off for now. Good night, everybody! Good night! Good night! Whee!